Okay, guys, so this is um, Azure 2-in-1. Yeah, we had to start repeating what this course was. It's been 1 week. week. Okay, so let's go ahead and continue with what we were discussing, which is the network and ink. So in networking topic, we were talking about this network Azure no, the storage topic we finished, but we talked about lifecycle management in the last class. Then we went over was Azure Search, and then we went over Oracle and Archive tier. So we talked about that. Will data lake and resource sharing cores. And we took a break. Oh, really? So we started networking, right? And in the networking, we did actually a lab. And that was our first lab that we created a VNet, and then we created two subnets, one public subnet, one private subnet, and then our objective was to connect from our laptop to the public subnet, and through the public subnet to the private subnet, because private subnet you cannot connect directly. So that was the first lab, and then I think I would need this diagram for today's lab. VNet lab works here, so all the markings are there. But we were supposed to then now go ahead with VNet peering, or with VNet peering, as well as as well as Bastion subnet, and as well as then Azure no point to site VPN. So we got some labs, very interesting labs there. So what is VNet peering? So we're gonna talk about now what is VNet peering. Oh, yeah, forgot to echo it. So VNet peering. So VNet peering is the virtual network peering, and let's talk in English now, which is that if we create a sub, okay, so usually I give it green. So we suppose create, it's not gonna be one big VNet. I'll just take it away. Suppose we have one VNet here, and we want another VNet that is totally, um, suppose we have one VNet here, and then we have another VNet that has totally nothing to do with this VNet. So suppose this first VNet, hey, how are you? Okay. Yeah, so that was anyway. So VNet 1, and this VNet 1 is suppose 10.0.0.0/16, right? Second VNet, maybe, which has again nothing to do with first VNet, is 192.168.0.0. These two VNets, obviously the IP range is totally different. Even if the IP range, and so we're talking about the Azure networking topic. And in this Azure networking topic, I mean, there are some students coming now, so I just I'm going brief and then going ahead. So we are doing Azure networking, and in this, we're talking about virtual network or VNets. Hello, Naveed, and yeah, so VNet 1 and VNet 1. So this is actually VNet 2. Reminder. Oh yeah, I started recording right. Yes, it's recording for 4 minutes and a minute. But thank you very much for the reminder. I forget. Okay, sometimes I forget. So we were talking about VNet 1 and so suppose this virtual network has nothing to do with this virtual network, and obviously this is not VNet 1, or it could be any name, right? Or VNet 0, or whatever. So now you have, obviously, inside the VNet you would have subnets, right? So you got subnet 1, subnet 2, subnet 3, subnet 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, 20, 30, whatever number. So those all subnets uh, have so subnet 1. I would put an IP, but right now I'm just explaining a concept here. So the thing is that this VNet has its own world, and there are so many. Um, so there's a traffic going on between. Uh, So there's route table created here, route table created here, route table created here. These guys are all connected to each other as well. Suppose you want to remove the route table, then you can remove that too. That the traffic from this subnet can go to this subnet, but traffic from this subnet cannot go to subnet 3, or any other mail flow or traffic flow you want to go for. But by default, all subnets are connected to each other. Now, there are, suppose, virtual machines here as well. Oops. Okay. Now, suppose there are virtual machines here. There are maybe 20 virtual machines in this subnet, maybe 100 virtual machines in this subnet, uh, 50 machines in this subnet. Maybe this is the front end application, and its back end application is here. Then this is the dev environment. This is the UAT or test environment that has to be a replica of the production environment. So it could be any of those scenarios that are typically available in a production environment. So now you have another subnet that has to be there for some other purpose. And suppose this is a subnet for a totally different department, or this is a subnet for a totally different branch of the company, for a different project. They had to create another subnet. Now, this VNet, first of all, virtual network, has its own IP range, and it has its own set of subnets. So in that case, you want to, and also another thing is that the IP range is different. Obviously, they are not even connected to outside world. They are just, working inside their own world. This means that whatever virtual machines are here has nothing to do with outside world. They are just connecting to each other, suppose, or at least these two virtual. Okay, the one is passing by now. Wherever it's okay, wherever they're going, ambulance or police. So anyway, so this virtual network has nothing to do with this virtual network. This virtual network has nothing to do with this virtual network, right? So last class, what we did was we created one VNet, and we discovered that, okay, if we create two subnets or 200 subnets or 2000 subnets, maximum we can create 3000. Sorry, maximum we can create 1000 subnets. So if we have two subnets or 20 subnets, they are automatically connected to each other within the virtual network. But we know now one more thing. We will know now one more thing. When we create virtual networks, multiple virtual networks, they have no automatic connection between each other. Subnets within a virtual network, yes, they have automatic connection between each other by default when you create them. But multiple virtual networks, they have no automatic connection between each other. You want to connect them, go ahead and connect them. You want to connect them, leave them as is, right? And that's where the peering comes in. So VNet peering is that you actually want to make a connection between the two VNets with the peering. A VNet peering. So that's the purpose of VNet peering. You want to connect by default they're not connected, but you want to connect. And second thing is, yes, you can still control the permissions there with the help of um, NSGs, right? With the help of NSG, which is network security group. So with the help of network security group, you can allow, this traffic, database traffic can go in, and HTTPS traffic can go in and out, but any other traffic is all not allowed, right? So VNet peering. So Naveed is asking, what is VNet peering? That's what I was explaining. Okay, so yeah, again, what is VNet peering? VNet peering is that you want to connect two VNets, and by default, not connected. Whenever you suppose I create third VNet, fourth VNet, fifth VNet, so they do have no connection between each other. By default, you want to connect them, you need to configure VNet peering. Don't want to connect them, do not need VNet peering then. So VNet peering is just like creating a bridge between the two VNets so they can exchange traffic, network traffic between each other, right? So you don't want them to connect, don't need a VNet peering here. Exactly. So Imran says in the chat, connecting to different VNets. Exactly. Yeah, networks. Exactly as you said. In Azure. So in AWS, this is called VPC, and here it is called VNet. Okay, so this is pretty simple and straightforward. Last time, remember that we had one public subnet and one private subnet, and then we connected from our laptop first to the public subnet, then we connected from the public subnet to the private subnet. But before that, we had to configure a lot to make this connection happen, and we configured NSGs as well, network security groups, that acts like a firewall, and it allows or disallows whatever type of traffic you want uh, uh, to go or to be received, right? Outbound, inbound traffic. So we're going to do the kind of the same thing. What we're going to do is we're going to create one VNet, or VNet 1. We're going to give totally, 10.0.0.0/16 range here, while VNet 2, we can refer to it as VNet 2. We're going to create a second VNet, and that we're going to give a totally different IP range. Second thing is that this VNet, we're going to keep it private, which means that it's going to have only private IP, no public IP. So that we can actually refer to it as private VNet, right? So if I just come here and put this, so this full VNet will be considered a private VNet, which means what? That none of the virtual machines here will have a public IP. If virtual machine is given a public IP, we can connect over the internet to that virtual machine, but we're not going to give public IP. We're going to only give private IP to these. Well, we're going to create just one subnet and one net 2, and we're going to keep it all private. So this means that first we have to connect to this VNet in order to connect to or cross over to the other VNet, right? So again, this VNet 1 will have a subnet and one virtual machine that is going to have a public IP, so we could connect over from the internet to this virtual machine inside this subnet, inside this VNet. From this VNet, from this virtual machine, we're going to, so first we're going to connect from our laptop to the subnet, and then virtual machine. Then from this virtual machine, we're going to cross over. If our VNet peering is configured correctly, then we're going to cross over to this on the basis of the private IP addresses here, and to this subnet virtual machine. Right. So last time what we did was we connected from here, and within the VNet, another subnet we connected. This is what we did last time. Now we're going to go one more step here. We're going to actually jump from one VNet to another VNet, but that is only possible if VNet peering is configured correctly and correctly. Okay, so that's the purpose here. Let's get going with this. So there will be a lot of terminology that you will get to hear and understand here as well. So yeah, that's overall what we need to do. So let's get going with that. So as I go ahead, I will be creating another diagram, and so I'll just create another paintbrush page, and let's go to my fourth browser here, which is this Fox on Fire. So I'll just go there, and portal dot I was supposed to go to Azure, but let's just visit our portal.office.com. So yeah, our previous lab, but I had created one more lab, one more series. I'm also creating cloud series in Urdu on my channel. So for that, I opened that account. So I'll go to, yes, Biryani one, CEA Biryani 27 always. Whoa, 27, seriously. Okay, so I'm gonna log into this, and then through this, I'm gonna hop on to the same user accounts, Azure. So portal.azure.com, and it's gonna ask who goes in. So I'm just gonna say it is Ayat. Ayat. I was trying to go for Shakespearean English, Macbeth, or some Ayat youth doing it. Anyway, so here, yeah, I'm logged into the correct account now. So let's get going with first of all, obviously, our most favorite place to visit when we log into Microsoft Cloud Azure is cost management, cost management, cost management. I'm just gonna click the cost management, and yeah, so zero is good. Total amount is this 12 cents, 10 cents for virtual machine that I started last time. Premium SSD that I used 9 cents, 0.09 cents, 0.03 cents, and then still prediction or forecast is actually total amount till now is $3. Okay, it's not forecasted amount is 34 cents more. Okay, and actually monthly budget is $1. Okay, so the thing is that yeah, we're being careful here, and yeah, so as we know that as a cloud administrator, not only that you're a technical administrator, but you're also somewhat, to a certain level, you're an accountant as well, because whatever you create on somebody else's machines that is cloud, you need to know how much it costs. Right? So yeah, so always visit that whenever you're about to create something in a production environment, especially in the companies, you need to know exactly how much it will cost. Okay, so anyway, it's still cheaper than maintaining your own data center. Right? Much cheaper than that. Okay, I'm just gonna go back to this, which is portal menu. And in the portal menu, I'm gonna go down to virtual networks, virtual networks. Okay. So here, yeah, last time we did delete everything. That's our rule that whatever lab we create by 2 o'clock or at the end of the class, we delete that. So let me just go visit the resource groups, and there's a resource group. Good news. Also, if we go to resources, yeah, no resources left. So we deleted everything. This is good news. So I'm gonna go try to go to this virtual networks. Excuse me. Okay, so I'm just going to create virtual network, but I'll just give you an overview of what I'm about to create. So first I'm going to create, excuse me, first virtual VNet, and we're going to give it obviously the default range. So it will be VNet 1, and its range will be 10.0.0.0/16. So 64,000 clients can come in, which we don't need. Actually, we're not going to be creating 64,000 clients. But anyway, then we're gonna go for either we can create two subnets or we can just create one subnet as well, because we need to simply jump over from one VNet to another VNet. So first I'm gonna create, okay, one subnet is good. And in that subnet, we're gonna give the IP 10.0 IP range 10.0.0.0/24. And inside this subnet, we're gonna create a virtual machine. And that virtual machine will have the first IP of this subnet, right? So it will be a VM. That VM will have IP of 10.0.0.4. It gets a fourth IP because the first three IPs and the last two IPs are taken for management purpose by the subnet. Okay, so this is what we need to create first. Also, obviously, we need to create NSG. That is going to do the whole magical thing of letting us or allowing us connect. Well, that's the first magical thing that is related to permission. Second magical thing is what the lab is all about, which is VNet peering. So how peering connects one VNet to another, that's what we need to learn. So I'm just gonna go ahead and type this. So NSG, what traffic are we allowing? So we're allowing, so allow all inbound traffic. So it's all inbound traffic. This means all over the internet. And the traffic is 3389. So it's RDP, right? Remote desktop protocol. So we're gonna you can remotely connect from there, as we did in last class. So this traffic here, so we need to connect from our laptop to this virtual machine. So for that, we need to come up with all this, right? So let's try to reach here first, and then we're going to create the second VNet and second VNet and the second subnet and the second virtual machine. So it's going to be obviously totally different from what we did last time in terms of the VNets, extra VNets. Okay, so I'm going to go back to our environment and let's do it. First, we're going to create a virtual network. So I'm just going to click the create button here. It's regarding, yes. Okay, so we're going to create a resource group as usual. So we're going to create a new resource group here, and we're going to name it rg.today's date as we always do, 31-2022, and AMIR or your first name or whatever you want to put there, SONK, and then and then what? So it's going to be yeah, so VNet 1. And yeah, we're not going to leave our region, which is Canada Central. It's the data residency policy we're following, or all the companies follow that. I'm going to go for IP address range. So IP address range, I'm not going to change anything here. 100/16, and that's the VNet range with 65,000 addresses here, right? And this is the default subnet. I can just change the name of the subnet though. This range is already given to it. So I'm going to go default here. And instead of default, I'll just go for VNet 1 public subnet. And we don't need internet inside for outbound traffic. So this means that NAT gateway is there if you want internet to be there for the virtual machine from inside to outside, right? So suppose somebody's inside the machine and needs internet connection to send traffic to, or if you have in this subnet virtual machines that only have private IP addresses that do not have public IP, then you need NAT gateway to provide them internet connection while they still have private IP. But anyway, this machine here will have a public IP, so good. This machine will have then the internet connection or connectivity. I'm just going to click save here. I'll just change the name of this VNet1 public subnet and click secure and so Bastion host, that would be the next lab we're going to be doing on uh, after this VNet peering. But first the VNet peering, so we're not enabling this Bastion host. So when we do that, then you will realize that what it is. We're going to discuss properly everything. For now, we're not doing this. DDoS, Distributed Denial of Service Protection Standard. We talked about that before as well. We're going to talk about it during the AZ500 and firewall. Yes, those are two protection services, protection related and security related services. So we'll talk about them in our security course right after this course. Nothing to do on this page, and click tags. And in the tags are used for just extra information. Suppose the manager is John and branch is suppose Toronto, and whatever you want to put as an information here, project. Suppose there's a project going on, and that is uh, construction, plaza, whatever. So you can just keep on putting information here, so you should be able to search for these resources easily. Suppose it's a huge environment or even a small environment, we do put proper tags there for the resource to be identified properly. Okay, which project it is connected to, who owns this, who created this, etc., etc. Okay, review plus create here, and running for validation, and validation passed here. So we are creating one VNet in Canada Central region, uh, and we're going to click the create and 8. So once we click the create and 8, deployment in progress. Okay, so the VNet has been created. If we go back to the diagram, yes, the VNet has been created. It has been created, right? Now we're gonna, and subnet has been created as well. So two things are actually done. So VNet and subnet are done. We need to quickly create a virtual machine, and then we need to also create a network security group and attach this network security group to the subnet and the virtual machine. Why? Because any traffic coming from outside uh, need to be allowed to go inside. So what type of traffic are you allowing to go inside the subnet and then to the virtual machine? So we're just trying to allow 3389 traffic, which is remote desktop. We can remotely connect to this. NSG has to be connected to both subnet and VM in AWS, Amazon Web Services. Normally, we don't need to connect the security group. There it is called SG. Here it is called NSG in Microsoft, in AWS, Amazon Web Services Cloud. So we just connect the SG to the virtual machine there only. EC2 instances. EC2 instance is what it is called there. We call here virtual machine. Azure Cloud. Okay. So anyway, this is done, and well, this much is done. Subnet one VNet. Let's quickly create a virtual machine and create a NSG. So I'm going to go back here, and so the VNet is created, um, and I'll just go again, and this time I'm going to create a virtual machine. So there's the virtual machine in the portal menu. We can click create, and NSG. Okay, during the creation of the virtual machine, then I have to create an NSG, or I can separately create an NSG as well, and then virtual machine. Right? So it could be anything. It's good to have everything ready before we create a virtual machine. So what I'm going to do is, instead of starting creating a virtual machine, I'll create a NSG first, and then attach it to subnet. And when the virtual machine gets created, so virtual machine can be attached to this network security group, which acts like a firewall. Okay, so instead of going to virtual machines, I'm gonna go to search here. I'm going to type it. Actually, for the last class, I already typed NSG, so it is in the cache, browser cache, or you can just type it like this, and network security groups will come here. And network security groups, I'll just click the 3 and 8. And yes, we have to connect it to the same resource group because these resources relate to the same lab. So this NSG will connect to this resource group as well that I created for the VNet. Okay, and then this is VNet one. So our naming convention has to be good because yes, because suppose it becomes very large environment. So if you had not followed any naming convention, proper naming convention, then you'll be lost. That which thing is relates to what, who created that at what time. So VNet one, and then I'm going to use that NSG inside VNet one. So it's VNet one NSG. Yeah, that's good enough. Otherwise, I could just give RDP this energy is only allowing this traffic. But when you name it, and suppose later you want some other type of traffic also to be connected, so then you have to change the name. So yeah, what type of traffic? If in future you don't want to connect or you any other traffic other than RDP, then it's okay to name it here. Otherwise, we don't name it with the traffic type. Okay, so anyway, yeah, we don't. Net one NSG one. Okay, maybe I need to create another NSG in future. So VNet one NSG one Canada Central. Make sure that it's the exact same region where the VNet was created, Canada Central, and otherwise is other regions as well. But I'll stick to Canada Central tags. Yeah, we don't know that what to do here, so I'm just gonna skip that. Review plus create and running final validation that if the configuration is correct or not. So this NSG is created, but it hasn't been configured yet. It's just being created. I'm just going to configure that after creation is done. So let's click the create. Deployment in progress. It's the bell icon that you can just check here. Okay, deployment is done. If you ever refresh this browser, then all these will be gone. Then you have to search in the notifications area separately, manually. So anyway, I'm just going to click that and I'll go ahead. Ahead. So there is I'm going to go to NSG. So where's NSG? I'm going to go to search and then there's NSG or here is recent services network security group. So I'll go there and the console and then I'm going to go inside because I need to actually configure it. So all I'm concerned is about inbound security rules that the subnet, oops, not this one. It did not follow the other one. Okay, so it's just all about inbound traffic that when from our laptop we try to connect to this virtual machine and subnet. So this NSG is allowing inbound traffic because traffic is coming from internet to inside of the subnet and the virtual machine. So it's allowing inbound traffic, right? So um, that's what we are trying to create here. So inbound security rules, and then I go to add here. So either it could be my IP. Suppose I go for my IP address. So this would just detect the IP address of my DSL router. And suppose I want to know that what is my IP. So well, I'll exactly do that. What is my IP? I'll exactly write that here. And right now my DSL router, the public IP is this, which is going to change very soon. And it keeps on changing, maybe every day, every 2 days, every 3 days, sometimes a few hours from our ISP. So suppose you want to only connect from this IP, then you can just change that to my IP here or service tags. And you create a service tag by some name marketing department or something, or just some specific IP address that you already know, or internet is from anywhere, or application security group as well. Suppose you want to connect from some application. But anyway, it's connecting from over the internet, so from any IP or my IP, both will work in this case. But I want it to only allow RDP traffic, which is 3389, and it's going to be transmission control protocol, so it's going to be reliable traffic movement. Yes, I'm allowing it, and its priority is 100. The next rule, inbound security rule that I create, it will be X priority, lower the number, higher the priority. That's the name that it has given to this rule. Okay with that, and click the add. So I am putting add. Okay, creating security rule, and that's in the bell icon here. So our VNet 1, NSG 1 is ready as well. Now I need to, if we go back to the diagram, I just need to go to create. I'm just going to create virtual machine and connect it to the subnet, connect it to the VNet, VNet, subnet, and then NSG as well. So we need to be careful about this. Okay, so let's get back. Now I'm going to go to menu again, and this time I'm going to go to virtual machines. And I'll click 3 and 8, and I'm going to go for Azure Virtual Machine. Obviously, I have to select the same resource group to which other resources like virtual network that we created and the NSG that we created, the security group that we created, are all attached to this resource group. So this will also be used because they are working together. The machine name is VM01 or whatever name you want to give. Press Central, yes, that's the same region. Not going for more availability options. Security type is standard. Yeah, we're going to keep it that way. Image is data center. So it's Windows Store 2022 is okay. VM architecture is x64. I'm going for spot discount. Size is D2S V3, which is 2 vCPUs and 8 GB RAM. Okay, so I'm gonna put a username password as usual. So it's your first name admin or whatever way you wanna put that. And the class password, small ABC, capital ABC, shift 123 without shift 123. All right, so we're not going for basic configuration of ports here, so I'm just gonna click none here. If I don't click none, it doesn't really matter because we're gonna just attach it to the network security group that we have created. So licensing, I didn't bring my license. It's just for today, few hours we need to reuse. So it's going to be a trial version of the operating system. Disks, nothing in the disk. We're not adding any disk, but we have a premium SSD, which is okay. Networking. So networking here, yes, it detected the VNet that I created. So yes, the VNet is there. Net one, and there's only one subnet there in the VNet, so that's the subnet it detected. That says, hey, you want to create a public IP? Yes, because we need to connect from our laptop to this virtual machine. That is why we have a public IP here. Now we have to connect, we have to click advanced here because I need to connect this virtual machine to the NSG. Okay, so when I go down here to advanced in the network security group, NICS is network security group, right? So there's that NSG that we have created. Now that NSG, so guys, I was telling you about when we create an NSG, it needs to be connected to a subnet. It needs to be connected to the virtual machine, right? So now when I am creating a virtual machine and I'm connecting it to the correct NSG, I remembered that we did not do this task of connecting NSG to the subnet. I just realized that, and it's not too late. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the NSG in the other tab. I'm going to just open another tab, duplicate tab. I'm going to go to the NSG and I'll go inside NSG and connect it to the correct subnet as well. This is a task that I forgot to do, but it's not too late, so it's okay. I'm going to go back here. I don't want to, go away from the screen, so I'm just going to go up, right click, and go for duplicate tab. Once I create duplicate tab here, it's asking, hey, who goes in? And I'll say, it's me. Yeah, it's extremely likely I'm gonna, okay, oh, they're happy now. Okay, so I'm gonna go to search here and NSG. I'm going back there because I forgot one step there. Network security groups. I'll click that and go inside that. And there's a subnet. I forgot to do that. So I created this inbound security rule, then I went away. But I would should have gone to because subnet is already there, right? So that's why I'm going to go here and say that I want to associate this NSG, network security group, to subnet. I'm going to click associate. I'm going to go for it already detects the only VNet that we have, VNet 1, and yes, it's subnet 1. So that's the only subnet that VNet has. So I'm associating this NSG to this VNet and subnet. That has to be done. Otherwise, oh, way back, I had to do a troubleshooting that what's going on, why am I not able to connect? And then I realized that many patches ago that I had not connected NSG with the subnet. And why was that? Even because I used to teach more AWS than Azure Cloud. AWS Cloud, you don't need to connect the SG to the subnet. You just need to connect it to the virtual machine. Here in Microsoft, they make us do an extra step here as well, which is good. Okay, so if we go back to the diagram here, yes, this is also done now as NSG is connected to this. While we were creating a virtual machine and we had connected this virtual machine to this NSG as well. So NSG is allowing subnet and virtual machine to let this traffic pass through now, inbound traffic only, right? So, okay, I'm going back here to this tab where I was creating a virtual machine. And I'm there, and I've already attached it to the correct network security group as well. Delete public IP and NIC when yes, I need to select that obviously because because when we delete the virtual machine, this public IP should also be deleted because public IP is a separate object we are attaching to this virtual machine. And sometimes companies have bought more public IPs separately as well. They want it deleted, want it to be associated with some other machine later, suppose. We want to delete the network interface card as well as the public IP when the machine is deleted. Okay, enable accelerated networking. Yeah, everything. We discussed all this in previous videos. Anyway, load balancing, we're not doing that. We've already done this lab, right? Okay, management, in the management, identity, Azure AD, auto shutdown, site recovery. Guess we discussed all that before as well. We don't need anything from here. From management, nothing. Monitoring, we don't need to enable any alerts. I showed you how to do that already. Boot diagnostics, we don't want it to create a storage account separately to save log files for all the activity that the machine does. So I'm going to click that disable in monitoring. I only made this change disable. And guest diagnostic, no. Advanced applications, extensions, custom data, no. User data, no. Performance, host, capacity, reservation, proximity placement. We discussed all that in previous labs. So nothing here in advanced. Like, tags, yeah, we know how to do it. So we're just going to go ahead. If you want to fill it up, it's okay. You don't want to fill it up, it's okay. Production environment, always fill it up. The tags. Okay, so there you go. The validation has passed, so all the configurations are correct. and it's gonna be charging 0.2030 cents USD per hour, which is not much. We're just gonna use it for 1 or 2 hours. So and then we're gonna delete it. So we're good now. Okay, so I'm gonna click the Cree and 8. Hopefully everything was good in terms of configuring this. So this virtual machine is now connected to. It's part of this VNet, part of this subnet, and it's connected to this NSG. Now, while this is getting created, we don't really need to wait for it to finish. We're going to go for the next VNet here, and that's going to be VNet 2, as we discussed before as well. So it's going to be VNet 2, but we're going to give an entirely different IP range to this. When I do that 168.0.0/16, we can actually give any range here, any private range. So that also we need to prove one more thing, that when we create a VNet peering, it has the routing enabled as well. So routing enabled just means that even if it's a totally separate range of IP addresses, it will still communicate with each other. So the VNet peering has routing enables inside VNet peering, right? Okay, so now, well, I haven't created that. I was just explaining this. So I'll just Control Z that, because when we create, then I'm gonna uh, create it here as well. Okay, so let's create VNet 2. Obviously, a subnet will be created here as well, but we need to name it carefully, because this is a totally private subnet with no internet connection. So it's within the data centers of Microsoft Azure Cloud that we're creating another private environment. So it's gonna be subnet 192.168.0.0/24. That's one thing. Second thing is, so yeah, this I need to put here. You can see a public VNet because we have public access to that, and we can refer to this as private VNet. Okay. So private VNet means no public IP configured here, no internet connection, no way to connect to this machine other than what we assign here. When we create a peering, then we can say that, okay, this VNet is only accepting traffic from VNet 1. That's it, no one else. So that's the same thing we did last lab, but on a lower, smaller level between two subnets. But now we're going VNet to understand the peering. Okay, so yeah, we're gonna reach here VNet, and third thing we're gonna create here is, obviously this is the this is NSG. So this NSG rule will be a bit different, because it's gonna allow inbound. Oh, I didn't mention there from anywhere. Here, allow inbound only from VNet 1. Allow inbound from only from VNet 1. So that's the NSG we're gonna create here, and this NSG will be connected to this subnet. Obviously, you get the idea now. And when we create a virtual machine here, this virtual machine will have only private IP. It cannot be accessed from internet. So this machine's IP VM will be 192.168.0. I think 4. It's going to be 4 as well, but this is the private IP. Here there is going to be a public IP as well. Here, public IP, while this is only private IP here. So only private IP. Now we need to connect. Then we will need to figure out that our VNet peering better be working if we want to connect from this virtual machine to this virtual machine across the VNets, right? So let's create that and configure everything. Oh yeah, and I was just saying that yes, it should be NSG should be connected to this subnet. So we're going to create another NSG now, right? In this virtual machine. So first VNet 2 and the subnet. Let's go there. Subnet 1 of VNet 2 actually, and this is subnet 1 of VNet 1. Anyway, I'm just going to go back here and let's go for, okay, don't save. Okay, virtual machine is created as well. If I go to the portal menu and go to virtual machines here, so this is VM01. Okay, now naming convention, I was supposed to put it as VM01-VNet1, right? Can I just change the name now after virtual machine is created? No, or yes, the label. Sometimes very small things. So there's a public IP for this virtual machine. Can I change the name? I think, well, this is just to access from outside, but this label. Anyway, it doesn't, not that big deal, but obviously we need to always make sure that we are putting proper names there. So this was VNet 1 virtual machine. Configured VMIP. No, that's for DNS. Anyway, so I'm just going to go back here. Let's go ahead and create the second VNet and second subnet and second virtual machine. So at least I'll make sure that the naming convention here is good. Naming convention is a very big deal. It's not something that can be ignored. So subnet, VNet 2 subnet, and then VNet 2 VM, right? VNet 2 VM as well. Okay. The most advanced thing about Paintbrush. So when I was doing this and writing something, that till that time I can edit it. As soon as I click anywhere else, now I cannot edit it. I can only remove it. So Control Z. And okay. VNet 2. Okay. Anyway, so let's go ahead. Need to stick with the naming convention. You're going to see very soon why I'm sticking to the naming convention. Because it's going to mix up if we don't put it that way. VNet 2, let's go ahead. I'm going to go back here, excuse me, and here I'll just go to portal menu, then I'm going to go down to virtual networks again. We already have a VNet 1, we're going to create a VNet 2. So here, portal menu, and then we need to then we're going to go for what am I doing? Once we're in the virtual networks, so we're going to go for create. Sorry, I'm going to click the create button again, and so I'm going to just connect this resource to also the same resource group, but it's going to be called now VNet 2. And it's again going to be in the same Canada Central region, but uh, it could be on a separate region as well. Okay, if this goes away, yeah. So if we go for Microsoft Azure peering, excuse me, so Azure peering's overview. So it's a good read here. And it has a lot of rules. It is what is peering service and IP service that uses the public internet, collaboration platform with service providers, and a value-added service that's intended to offer optimal and reliable routing as service provider partners to the Microsoft over the public network. Wow. English, what I explained already, that two VNets, you want to connect them to each other. You need peering service for that, right? So, but they said it in a way that we had to translate that into English. So anyway, this is a very good read. I'm just gonna put that here in WhatsApp group as well, so you could also read it as your peering service, as well as here. This is a very very good read. But what I was trying to say is that we can also connect it to uh, suppose you created that VNet in Australia East or East Asia or UK South, right? And EU, like in the European region, so then you can do that too. But I'm going to go for Canada Central again. I keep, it's always the KISS rule, which is KIS, which is keep it simple. Keep it simple, right? Because the concepts need to be uh, um, clarified first, and then you can go for all kind of complicated setup. Now you can see that automatically it has come up with another IP range 10100. Previous VNet was 10000, right? So, but I don't want that range. I will go for my own range, which is 192.168.0/16. So that's good enough. As soon as I did that, it removed my subnet that, hey, uh, it had created that subnet with that previous range. You wanna change that IP range, so the subnet is gone, but we can always create our own sub and net. Okay, so I'm going to create one subnet here according to this diagram. So this is done, kind of like we selected, not undone. So now we're going to go for subnet. So VNet2 is there, VNet2 subnet. I'm going to go back here and add subnet here, and I'll just name it VNet2 subnet. Name must be, yeah, okay, it has to be small case and no space. VNet2 subnet. We can also just put it VNet to subnet 1. Right? Suppose in future we want to create another subnet. Okay, and IP range 192.168 dot 0.0/44. Right? So, and it says 251 plus 5. So it actually takes away 5 IP addresses for management purpose. The rest is okay. We don't need to select any of those. We want to keep this as a totally private VNet with a private subnet, a private virtual machine, which we cannot connect other than the first VNet. Right? I'm just going to click the add button here. So I'll select that. We have to select it for it to be created. Yes, 192.168.0.0, 192.168.0.0/24, there it is /16, and VNet 2 subnet. That's good enough. I'm going to go security. Nothing in bastion host, DDoS, distributed denial of service, and firewall for now. And tags, you know how to use it. So review plus create and validation passed. So I'm going to go ahead and create the VNet 2. Right, so according to the diagram, we are done with VNet2 and subnet, VNet2 subnet as well. So just the VNet2 or virtual network 2 and its one subnet we are done with. Now we need to go for NSG. We're going to create NSG, but the rules are different now. The traffic is only being accepted from VNet 1 to VNet 2, and it's not accepting traffic from internet or anywhere else. Right? Suppose there were third VNet, fourth VNet, fifth VNet. It could accept from VNet 1, VNet 3, VNet 10, VNet 3. Suppose there were so many VNets, right? So you can connect any VNet to any other VNet peering. Okay, so traffic is only this way. So we're going to create an NSG rule now for VNet 2 only. We're going to carefully name that the same way. VNet 2, NSG 1, before we created VNet 1 NSG1. Now we're going to create VNet 2 NSG1. Right. All right, Alt Tab. I change the screen here. We go back. NSG, we can search. We already have it in the search history and recent services as well. So, excuse me. Excuse me again. Okay. So, wait, seriously? Went for NSG, right? Okay. NSG, Network Security Group. VNet 1 NSG1, excuse me. Now I'm going to go for VNet 2 NSG2. So I'm going to click the CRE and 8. This NSG acts like a firewall. It disallows traffic to and from wherever, right? Okay, resource group, the same resource group because everything is one big lab. So here it's going to be VNet 2 NSG1. Suppose you want to create NSG 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different NSGs you want to create here. So and we always just keep it one, although we're going to only create one NSG here. Okay. So central, make sure the region is exactly the same. And we go for and the tags. So we're not going to put anything in the tags. We're going for the create button. And then the validation is passed. Now we're going to go for create. All right. Okay. Yeah, Happy New Year. All right. So we're going for, so it's also created net here. And it's network security group. Yep. Okay. So if we go back to the diagram, we haven't configured it. We created this network security group, but we didn't configure it yet. And once we configure this NSG, we need to actually remember to connect it to at least the subnet because subnet is already there. We need to connect it to the subnet. Virtual machine is not there yet, so we can't connect this NSG to the virtual machine, but the subnet, yes, we need to associate that. Okay, so I need to configure it first. So where's the NSG? I'm going to go to the NSG, search history, click, and then network security group. Okay, so the second NSG is created. Now we need to configure it, right? And we already know that its inbound security rule has to be configured. So if we go back to the diagram here, it is only allowing traffic from VNet 1. This means we need to put this specific IP range as a receiving or inbound traffic when we are going for inbound traffic, right? Configuration. So if I go back here, so we are inside second NSG, we will be going to the inbound rules, security rules of the NSG. We're going to go to add, and in the add, this time we're not going for any, which means internet, anywhere from internet. We're going to go for a specific IP range. You can give multiple IP addresses or you can give one IP range. Obviously, we're going to give one IP range. So 10.0.0.0/16. We're accepting IP addresses from this range. Obviously, if VNet peering exactly manually is connected, only then it will be able to detect across that VNet peering. There is another VNet with this IP range that I'm allowing. Okay. So once that is put there, source port range. So do you want traffic? What type of traffic, specific traffic you're going to allow from the source? We're saying any type of traffic, but what type of traffic the destination, actually the destination is accepting. We already know that, and that is RDP. So it's only accepting RDP traffic on the other side, on the VNet 2 side. And yes, it's the first NSG there, so it's a priority 100, and it's pretty much the same thing. Cider block RDP inbound. So yes, now we're accepting traffic only from this IP range, which is the VNet 1 IP range, and nowhere else. So I'm going to click add here. That's one thing that we created in inbound rules. Second thing we will remember is that we need to associate to the correct VNet and correct sub and net. So I need to go to the subnet area and click the associate. And oh, no, 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 not VNet 1. Where's the VNet 2? There it is, VNet 2. VNet 2 has only one subnet. But this network security group is connected to the correct VNet and correct subnet. So this is a small environment. Obviously, in large environments, you have to be very, very, very careful where there are like 10 or 20 VNets or 100 VNets, and then each VNet has 25, 30, 80, whatever the usage is, whatever the scenarios are. There's so many subnets, so you have to first actually draw somewhere that this connects here, that connects here, that connects here, that connects here, and then you carefully connect. And obviously, the naming convention has to be perfect. Identify which resource you're connecting what to what. Okay, so I'm just going to press O and K here, and it's saving. So we have created a security group that has an inbound row that is accepting traffic only from VNet 1, and it's associated to the correct net and correct subnet. So if we go back to the diagram here, so yes, the NSG has been created, only accepts traffic from VNet 1. It's connected, associated to the correct VNet and the correct subnet. So yes, when we are going for subnet, obviously at that time we have to choose the correct VNet as well. So the diagram, this diagram of energy being connected to subnet also should show that it needs to connect to this correct VNet as well, right? Okay, so this done, VNet done, subnet done, NSG done. Let's create virtual machine carefully and connect it to the correct subnet. And yes, remember, only private IP, no public IP to this virtual machine, right? Then we have no other way to connect to it, either through VPN, which we don't have, or through VNet peering only. We can connect from this virtual machine to this virtual machine. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'll go for the virtual machine as well. So portal menu here, virtual machine, this one. Okay, so one virtual machine is there. I should have put it VNet 1 VM01. So that's not good. But anyway, we know that it's just two machines we're going to use. But in production environment, we should be very strictly putting there the naming convention, correct naming convention. Okay, so we're attaching the second virtual machine in VNet 2 also to the same resource group. Okay, virtual machine name VNet 2-VM01. Actually, this is the VM01 of VNet 2, but we should still not give it that. Maybe total number of virtual machine is 2 for the company, so you could just name it any other way as well. Again, VM01 could be there because the full name is still different. Okay, so you know what? If full name is different, then yeah, it's VM01 of VNet 2, right? Okay, Canada Central, yeah, same region. Availability options, nope. Security type, okay. Image is Windows Server 2022, trial version. VM architecture, x64. No spot discount. Size is 2 vCPUs, 8 GB RAM, D2S underscore V3. Okay, so username, password. Yeah, it's the same admin, so the same username, password. Your first name, admin. ABC, capital ABC, shift 123 without shift 123. Small ABC, capital ABC, shift 123 without shift 123. All right. We don't need this because we're going to be configuring it in the NSG is already created for that. Network security group is already created for that. So no licensing here. It's a trial version of Windows. SSD, virtual disk is okay. Networking. Now, obviously, this virtual machine is not going to be connecting to VNet 1. It's going to be connecting to VNet 2, virtual network 2. And VNet 2 has only one subnet, VNet 2 subnet. And no, we're not giving public IP to this. So this means no way it's connecting to internet. So other than the private IP or any other virtual machine with private IP wants to connect to this, or a private or public IP wants to connect to this. If the routing is enabled, yes, then we will be able to connect to this virtual machine. So when we go to advanced, we have VNet 2. Actually, when we go down, this is the VNet 2 NSG1. See this? It shows all VNet NSGs, VNet NSGs. So VNet 1 NSG1 is also showing there. VNet 2 NSG1 is this one. So we go for. So that's why correct naming convention really is so critical. Okay, so delete nick when VM is deleted. Yeah. Enable accelerated networking. Yeah, it's okay. So we need more network push. It's gonna plus load balancing. We're not doing that. Management, and it's pretty much the same. Nothing in management. Yeah, in monitoring we disable this. Don't need extra monitoring that costs. Advanced, nothing in advanced. Well, tags. In production environment, I would put detailed tags here, but not in the lab. Next, validation, right? Running final validation passed. That's another machine now. And I'm gonna click the agree and wait. All right. So once we click the create button, it's gonna create a virtual machine. So this means now this virtual machine is inside VNet 2, uh, subnet 2, NSG. It's connected to this network security group, which allows it to connect only from any virtual machine from VNet 1. So, and we're going to confirm now as soon as the virtual machine is created that it only has a private IP. We're going to confirm as well that in this virtual machine, it has a private IP as well as a public IP. So there only private IP, there is public and private IP. Both are there. So now we're going to jump here. We're going to connect to this virtual machine. And then we're going to try. Obviously, we should fail. But we're going to try. So we're going to RDP into this virtual machine first. Obviously, we will be able to do that because it has a public IP. Public IP is routable on the internet. So over the internet, we can connect to this machine. But when we try to put the address of this virtual machine and try to connect through RDP again, we should fail. Right? We should not be able to connect to this virtual machine. We create an RDP with the correct username, password, and IP address, right? Then we're going to do a VNet peering and we're going to try again the same connection and it should pass. So that's what we're going to do. We're waiting for this virtual machine to be created now. And it's created. Okay. So if we go to the virtual machine portal menu and virtual machine console, we got two virtual machines here. And one virtual machine, VM01 from VNet 1, has actually a public IP as well. And the other virtual machine does not have public IP, exactly what we wanted. So now what do we do? Now what do we do? Oh, okay. No. So here, now we're gonna connect from our laptop, and we're gonna RDP into this virtual machine. So let's do that. Then we're gonna try to RDP into this machine. We should fail because we haven't created the VNet peering yet between the two VNets. Okay. But let's just also confirm that the first virtual machine has public and private IP, and the other machine has just the private IP. And is it exactly this private IP or something else? Is it exactly this private IP or something else? Right? The first. Okay, if I go to the first virtual machine here, so public IP is this, and private IP is this. Right? So that's the public IP of this virtual machine, and that's the private IP of this virtual machine, VM01 of VNet 1. If we go to the second one, Then there is no public IP headers here. Obviously, we did not ask for one, but there is a private IP, and yes, it does start from group 4. Got it. Okay. So, as per our diagram, let's make that jump. Let's remotely connect to the first virtual machine. And then once we are there, then we're going to try to connect to the second one, but we should fail. Okay, so I'm going to the first virtual machine here. I'm going to go to connect here, RDP here, or desktop protocol. Download RDP or just grab the IP and open MSDSD and then, you know, how you want to connect. Okay, it says unknown publisher. We say, yeah, we trust that machine. Then it says, who are you? So we say I am the username that we created there and the password that we created there. We're going to put that. It says it's an untrusted certificate, security certificate. It's a self-signed certificate. We're saying, yeah, it's okay. All right, we trust this machine. So we are inside remotely in this virtual machine. All right, while it is connecting, okay, we're inside this virtual machine now. And from here, we need to launch another RDP connection to this virtual machine across the VNet. We know its IP address, we know its username password. So if two VNets are connected by default, which is not the case, subnets within a VNet connect automatically. Two VNets do not connect automatically. You have to make a manual connection between two VNets. So we're inside here. But now let's launch with this known private IP and the username password. So I'm going to go inside the virtual machine. So this is VM01 with this public IP and port 3389 remote desktop connection. I'll just close this and I'll make it big now. So there's a blue bar here that shows that we're inside this virtual machine. And there's, yeah. So now we need to just go for MSDSC, Microsoft Terminal Services Console. That takes us to the remote desktop connection. And it says, oh, you want to connect to something else? Yeah. So who? So I say that it's the second virtual machine who either you need to know the IP or the DNS name. Okay, so that's the DNS, that's the IP of this machine. I put that IP 192.168.0.4. Alt tab, go back, make it bigger. Okay, 192.168.0.4. This is the machine. I am telling it the address of that machine. Then I'll say, okay, can you please connect? And if it asks for username password, this means that we are going somewhere. Or even after that, if there's no connection there, obviously that's not going to be able to connect. So um, there you go. So it says remote desktop can't connect to this. Okay, if I try again, it's not going to connect because I gave the address of the other machine in the other VNet. But now we need to make it happen. We need to make it successfully connect across the VNet. Okay, so it's a no can do. All right, so we're going back to, we'll keep this machine here somewhere, minimize it. Now what do we need to do? Okay, so all this effort was to do this one thing, to understand this one thing, and that is VNet peering, VNet peering. So VNet peering. So let's create that peering or that bridge between the two VNets. And excuse me, and then we're going to try that again. Okay, so where is that VNet peering functionality? So um, Normally in AWS, oh, okay. So there's a question in the WebEx chat that says if we create any VM only with private IP, we won't be able to connect from our laptop. No way. Okay, so let's try to do that. This virtual machine is in VNet 2, subnet 2, and it has a private IP. So I'm going to connect. Okay, let's go this way, right? Connect RDP. It only has a private IP, right? Or RDP. That's the way I connected to the first one, right? The second one. And connect. I'm connecting to private IP is not internet routable, right? So this, it is looking for this IP in my home right now. My DSL router, it is asking, hey, DSL router, do you have this IP? And it's not going out of my home network right now. And it says, oh, I cannot find this because private IP is not routable. It has to have a public IP for us to connect to that second machine. So we cannot connect. Directly, we cannot connect right now. And then there's another lab coming where we're going to connect through Bastion host. Then there's another lab coming to the private virtual machine, private IP virtual machine. We're going to connect through Bastion subnet. Then there's another lab coming there where we're going to connect with VPN, virtual private network. That's only two ways. All right. Welcome. Okay. So again, what were we doing? We're going to create a VNet peering now between the two. We can connect to this private IP-based virtual machine. Otherwise, there is no other way we can connect. Either we can create a Bastion host here in this VNet, and then we can connect to this virtual machine, or we can create a VPN gateway, then we can connect to this virtual machine. There's no other way. Or the third one is VNet peering. That's the only other way we can connect to this virtual machine. We can. All right, so let's do it. Do it. What? So where is VNet peering? Oh, in AWS Solutions Architect Associate course, or in AWS, Amazon Web Services, normally the VNet peering is shown within the, virtual machine. No, it's within the virtual machine, right? So, but if I go here to VNets, I'm just going to go to the virtual networks now. Instead of the virtual machines, I'm going to go to the virtual networks. And I'm gonna go from VNet 1 to VNet 2 or from VNet 2 to VNet 1. It's pretty much the same thing. But if I go to VNet 1 and there is peerings. So obviously a VNet will connect to a VNet. Did I say that it was in AWS? It was in the machine. No, it was, I think, in subnet was showing peering, right? Okay. Anyway, when I do the lab, remember again. All right, here, VNet 1 and peering, right? So what we're doing here is that we're initiating the VNet peering from VNet 1 to VNet 2. We could initiate it from here as well. But the traffic that it will open is supposed to be two-way traffic. But obviously, this arrow actually only represents that SG is allowing only traffic from this VNet to that VNet, nowhere else, right? So, but VNet peering enables two-way traffic, not compulsory. We can have one-way traffic enabled as well. So from VNet 1 to VNet 2, the traffic can go, but from VNet 2 to VNet 1, the traffic cannot come. So we can configure that too. So it can be two-way traffic, it could be one-way traffic. Any other side, from VNet 2 to VNet 1 only, VNet 1 to VNet 2 only, can be that too. Okay, let's create a VNet from VNet 1 to VNet 2 by going to the peerings. Once we go to the peerings here, then we're going to click add it. Peering link name. For peering to work, two peering links must be created by selecting remote virtual network. Azure will create both peering links. So that's what it's saying here. That it's gonna create two-way traffic. It will create the peering from other side to this side as well. And what we are doing is creating from this side to that side. So it's gonna create two-way peering, right? Okay. So we need to name it in a way that we understand. So VNet 1 to VNet 2. So because there is another pinning name that it's gonna pinning link name on the other side. So there we're gonna write VNet 2 VNet 1, right? So VNet 1 to VNet 2. And there's allow default traffic. So traffic to remote virtual network is allowed, but we can block as well. So once full traffic is created, we can actually block traffic from one side to the other, or from the other side to the first one. Any way we can block. Traffic forward from remote virtual. So there is traffic to remote virtual network allow. Traffic forwarded from remote virtual network. So what is that? Traffic forwarded is excuse me. Traffic forwarded is the traffic not originating from the same virtual network. So suppose you're configuring here, it's not suppose we are configuring the VNet peering here. So there's an option here, traffic forwarded from. So first is traffic originating from. So if the traffic is originating from VNet 2, inside VNet 2 to VNet 1, suppose that's the case, then it's okay. Forwarded just means that the traffic actually originated from outside and landed into VNet 2, and then it is forwarded from VNet 2 to VNet 1. Do you want to allow that? Right? So um, sometimes VNet peering is more feasible and it's more secure. And the first option is the only one that you select, which is that from the directly next VNet I'm accepting traffic, in forwarded one I'm not accepting, which means that traffic originating from outside of the next VNet and it comes to the next VNet and then it is forwarded to that. I'm not accepting that traffic. I am accepting any traffic that is originating directly from the next VNet to this VNet, right? So forwarded traffic you can block if you want, or you can allow that traffic as well. Then there is virtual network gateway or route server. And then there is, it says dynamic routes for virtual machines, a virtual network programmed by virtual network gateways or route servers. So dynamic routes, automatically created routes from suppose on premises or from a third VNet or from 23rd VNet or from wherever. So they are all dynamic routes. Routes are just, obviously, where is the traffic coming from? From suppose there is another VNet here, there is another VNet, there is another VNet, and dynamically, suppose you've created peering, then dynamically it can show you routes. It can understand that from which route the traffic is coming now. Correctly, it can also uh, collect information of all the routes. Additionally, a virtual network gateway routes traffic between on-premises networks. So a local branch in Toronto, suppose, or New York, suppose, or anywhere else. So additionally, a virtual network gateway routes traffic between on-premises networks and Azure virtual networks. A virtual network gateway can be created for either VPN gateway or Express route. So that's what it's saying here. That if you have, suppose there's a Toronto branch here, and from there you want to connect, then you will create a virtual network gateway. Now we will be creating a VPN gateway. So you're going to learn how to create a virtual network gateway with VNG and VPN gateway inside virtual network gateway. Maybe configuring that. So an express route is obviously it's a separate topic. That you have a lease line. You have a very fast connection from your branch to the nearest Microsoft Azure data center, and from that you're connected to the whole, Azure cloud. But it's really fast connection that you're connected to. So if that's the whole case, then then you use this virtual network gateway. Right now, we're not using virtual network gateway. It's just online to online. VNets are connecting to each other, right? Okay, so now it says that, okay, so one side of routing, this is VNet 1 to VNet 2. So this side, you have told us what to do, what to configure. Now, this side also tell us how do you want the options to be. So we could then create a peering that has two-way connectivity. Right? So I'm going to go back here and I'm going to copy this, paste it here, but I'll change the numbering. I'm changing this to 1 to 2 and 2 to 1. Once I change that, now it is the other side. So we just need to name it smartly, right? Then virtual network deployment model. So it's resource manager or classic. We're not going the old way. We're just going to go for the current newer way. Classic is being deprecated and not continued anymore. Also, it's saying that, hey, you want to put the ID of, you can select from the list of virtual networks or enter the resource ID directly. So virtual networks have their identification number as well. So you want to use that, or we're just saying no, we know that which virtual network is connecting to which other virtual network. So now is asking that, hey, which VNet do you want to connect to? So we're inside net one. Which VNet are we connected to? VNet 2. I'm going to put here net 2, and then again traffic to remote virtual network. Same configuration that we discussed above is here as well. So it's the same thing. So yeah, that's the configuration of the peering uh, between the two virtual networks. So once we have given all the input, then we're going to click the add button. So I'm going to click that add button, and you can see successfully created on the side. Both sides, it has added that. So in VNet 1, it has created the peering. In VNet 2, it has created the peering. Okay, in the chat, WebEx chat says, has a question. Can I have DC1 on-prem and DC2 in Azure with same subnet? Can they communicate? Yes, they can communicate if you have virtual network gateway, like the VPN configured there, and it's going to be not, it can be point to site VPN, but it can be also site to site VPN. Or if you have express route, lease line connected from on premises to Azure VNet, yes, those are the two ways. So VPN, you can create that over the public internet, or you have your own express route. Then you can have on premises DC1 connecting to cloud DC. Now, I have one of those labs as well, and I think Imran also asked me that question way back. So yes, there is another lab in that is upcoming where um, we will have one virtual machine created in our laptop in our like in VMware environment or inside. So we're going to install a Windows 2012, 2022 or Windows 2019. Then we're going to install Hyper-V inside, and then Hyper-V, and then we're going to install a virtual machine inside, and we're going to create its replica in our Azure cloud. And then one of them will be, suppose this is active, this is passive. Actually, this will be active, and this will be passive or standby virtual machine. And then we're going to fail over from above to below, right? So yes, that's what exactly. So obviously, if they communicate with each other, then only they can fail over, right? If they can communicate, yes, then DC1 on premises and DC2 in the cloud. That also is possible. It's a long lab, but it's pretty interesting how to connect one virtual machine on premises to another virtual machine in the cloud. Oh, okay, so Control Z, Control Z. All right. So what we were doing, I want to check it out that peering inside VNet 1 is created in gateway transit. Yeah, there is no gateway created from cloud to on premises. So that's saying disable, which is okay. But if we go to VNet 2 here with the same peering, so what did it do there? So VNet 2 peerings, yes, it created a peering connection here as well, and it status is connected. In AWS, you have to manually enable peering after creating a peering in AWS Amazon Web Services. You have to enable it separately manually. Here, it just gets manually created right away, and it's working. So if peering is working, so we should be able, now we can make another attempt from here to here, connect to this, so it should be working, right? So let's go to that virtual machine again, and where we failed before, now that there's a routing enabled between the two VNets, now when we try to connect the RDP connection with this private IP only, we should be able to connect because the routing is enabled, right? Should be, should. I'm going to go to the virtual machine that is already running inside the VNet 1 here, and we are remotely connected to this virtual machine here. And from this virtual machine where everything is already set up, so yes, the IP of the other, the virtual machine on the other VNet is already there, 92168.04. Now we're going to check that if it's going to connect or not after pairing connection. Well, so far so good. It asks for credentials. So I have given your first name, my first name, admin, and then the IP is that's the same IP that we failed before creating a peering. And that's the same IP that we're trying to connect after creating a peering between the two VNets. That's a totally different IP range as well. So yeah, yes, and yeah. So now I have minimized this virtual machine remote desktop connection here just to show you that VM01 is living, it's the public IP one, the virtual machine inside VNet 1. We are inside this. From inside this machine, we have made a remote connection to a machine that has only private IP, and its private IP is different from the private IP of this machine. Obviously, VNet peering has routing enabled as well. Only with routing that we are able to make sure that you know that separate IP ranges can be created as well, can be connected as well. Yeah, there you go. So now this virtual machine, this virtual machine is connecting to a virtual machine across the VNet through VNet peering to another VNet which only has it's only accepting traffic from this VNet, and it's only having private IP. It does not have a public IP. Yay! So that's VNet peering, and before VNet peering, we could not connect with the same IP. After VNet peering connect configuration, we are connected now. Yay! Okay, so that is VNet peering, and after the break, and after these messages, we're gonna go for Bastion host, and then hopefully we can go for also point-to-site VPN connectivity, and that fourth lab we create an on-premises Hyper-V virtual machine, then make a replica of that virtual machine in the cloud, and make two machines talk to each other. I will be creating an empty machine in the Hyper-V because then we need a lot of bandwidth just to support the synchronization of that virtual machine. So anyway, we're gonna go for all those exciting labs as well. But right now, yes, that's VNet peering. Let's take a break and come back for more. All right. Okay. So yeah, these two virtual machine. Yeah, we're gonna be back uh, after. I was gonna say again these messages. No, no message. So okay, break passes starts at 11:47, 11:57, 12:07. It's 20 minutes break. So class starts 12:07. Then we go for more second labs. So pausing, muting mic and pausing video. Zooming. All right, so we're trying to go for the next lab. So the next lab is Bash and Subnet. Oh, right. So Bash and Subnet is something that we were waiting for because yeah, this did come as a question by so many that what is Bastion was when we were creating virtual machines. So Bastion subnet, we need to understand what it is and how useful it is. Obviously, very useful. So how does it all work? Or okay, let me just first copy all this to the diagram here, and then I'll put it to the slide, and you can access that. All right, okay, there is the suggestion. Okay, that will be good. And the other one is this. Okay, quackly, because sometimes I delete it and then I don't find it anywhere. So I have put it here. Okay, so what is Bastion subnet? What is break? No, what is Bastion subnet? So Bastion subnet is going to provide some more secure access and easy access for us to the virtual machine. So what am I talking about right now? So suppose you have a VNet here, virtual network in Azure cloud environment. So VNet, and that VNet, whatever the IP range is, doesn't matter. /16. Now the thing is that you have several subnets here that have several virtual machines here, and those virtual machines are having public IP addresses, right? So subnet, whatever IP range, right? And and so there are virtual machines here. Suppose a lot of virtual machines, a big environment here. But those virtual machines, okay, maybe you have some virtual machines with private IPs and some virtual machines with public IPs. So suppose you have private IP virtual machines as well as public IP virtual machines as well. But the thing is, public IP. Virtual machines is a public IP. Obviously, you can connect from internet, and because every virtual machine gets a private IP as well. That's compulsory. Like every machine within. So if you want to connect from suppose this machine to this machine, so you don't have to go to internet with public IPs and then connect to this virtual machine. You can connect through private network within that LAN or local area network environment. So with private IP, the virtual machines can connect within the same network as well. So every machine gets a private IP and public IP. So whichever machine has a public IP, obviously it also has a private IP, and you saw that in previous lab that I was showing that one machine had a public IP and a private IP, and the other machine just had a um, just had a private IP. So the thing is that every machine gets two if you choose to give public IP. Now, suppose, and second thing is that you connect to the virtual machines by RDP, right? Or remote desktop protocol. Right? With that, you connect to virtual machines. Suppose we are connecting from our laptop here, and from um, with the help of RDP, you connect to these machines, right? And we were able to connect to those. Now, you don't want, first of all, you don't want that people connect from outside with private IPs. With the RDA, through RDP connection, people connect and they connect to a virtual machine directly with and to those virtual machines directly which has public IP. So first thing what you want is you say that okay, I do not want any VM to have a public IP. Okay, why not? I mean, what's the big deal here? Well, a virtual machine having a public IP means that from anywhere on the internet, you can try as a hacker to connect to this virtual machine. Obviously, there are many securities are in place. You don't know the username password. You have multi-factor authentication enabled. You have firewall there on the subnet level. You have NSG, network security level. NSG that is also there, that is blocking and allowing traffic. Then you have a firewall on the subnet level as well. You have VNet access control list as well, that who can access and who cannot access. So you have many type of securities there, but still, could be a rogue employee within the company who could give information to the outside, or maybe some employee's laptop got hacked and some internal information was also stolen. And then because the virtual machine already has a public IP, so if some more information is stolen or leaked, or rogue employee sharing it with other outsider hackers of rival companies. So if the machine has a public IP, it's always at risk of being hacked. Security should be very tight, and always you have to give public IP. Obviously, your security should be very good, and you keep an eye on that, and you keep an eye on the alerts, and you keep an eye on the log files always. But the thing is that public IP itself is exposing virtual machine for the internet, no matter how much security is. Whatever is the attack surface, you need to reduce it, right? That's the plan. So, public IP makes it a bit easier for hackers to launch attacks on that virtual machine. If the machine has a private IP, obviously, first the hackers have to access that subnet where the virtual machine is. So for that, the hacker has to have access to the VNet, then to the correct subnet, then the virtual machine comes. Otherwise, public IP just kind of can bypass these levels if hacker is a real professional one. Right? Although there's very good security that Microsoft offers, but whatever attack surface you can reduce, make it more harder for the hacker to really attack launch attacks on exposed virtual machines. So although there are lots of security layers, still public IP itself is a kind of it makes a little more easier for the hacker. So okay, I don't want any VM to have public IP. This means, oh, if all virtual machines will have private IPs, how would you connect? Okay, so first thing, I don't want public IPs. And if they only have private IPs, then there are very fewer ways left to connect. One is express route, very expensive, a dedicated line. We're going to talk about this more separately, but obviously this is something that we can only talk about. There's no lab for that because I don't have a rich Uncle Sam or a Bill Gates who can lend me a full express route connection, and I don't have a branch anywhere. But I'm just saying. Okay, the thing is that express route is a pretty fast but expensive lease line, dedicated line from your branch to the nearest data center. Either you have that, and then you connect over that through VPN, or you over the internet you create a VPN connection over the internet, and then you can connect with a private virtual machine. So there are two ways that you can connect with a private virtual machine, private IP based virtual machine, right? And then there is another way, and that way is Sebastian. I didn't say Sebastian. I said the Bastion subnet. So there is another subnet that you create, and you call it Bastion subnet. Oh, okay. What does it do? You give it a public IP. Okay, public IP given. Now what? So the idea behind Bastion subnet is that you don't, uh, first of all, your virtual machines do not have a public IP, so you directly cannot connect to a virtual machine. Second thing, oh, your virtual machines have private IPs. How do I connect now? I don't have a VPN. I don't have an express route. I can't afford an express route, suppose. What is the other way? Okay, then the third one is that you create a subnet within a VNet, give only that subnet the public IP, put all the securities there. Maybe you can enable firewall here, and in all the, then there's NSG as well on all the virtual machines that is also blocking, allowing traffic. Uh, and these machines already have private IP, so this is another security that you have. These machines are not that exposed now, as there is no public IP to the machines. So first you connect to the Bastion subnet, and through that Bastion subnet, you connect to the virtual machine that you're allowed to connect after going through other securities like NSG. Through the NSG, you can connect to that. So the thing is that you have to go through the Bastion subnet to connect to any other subnet within the environment. Now that's the first thing. Now you don't have to expose those virtual machines in the cloud, so that's very good. You are connecting through subnet, so this means that subnet security could be increased twofold, threefold as well. And then another benefit of that is that you don't need to really download the RDP file. You don't need to connect directly through remote desktop connection to the virtual machine, but instead, you can go to the browser, and from within the browser, you can uh, connect to any private IP based virtual machine. From within the browser, you can connect to the Bastion subnet. Through the Bastion subnet, you can connect to the virtual machine. So there are many benefits. When you see the lab, then you will understand even more. One thing is that per VNet, you can create one Bastion subnet. So within the VNet, if you have lots of subnets, and those subnets are going to have all the virtual machines with private IPs, So if you want to connect to all the private IP based virtual machine, you can create one subnet that is just a Bastion subnet. We also call it Bastion host or Bastion subnet, right? So through that, so one Bastion subnet per VNet, you can, so suppose you have 20 VNets, so each VNet will have one Bastion subnet. So first benefit, don't have to give public IPs to the virtual machine. Second benefit, when you're connecting to the Bastion subnet, you can put more security there. And third benefit is that you can actually connect from any browser to those virtual machines as well. So it's just browser-based access as well. Suppose you're traveling and you have a kiosk there, which is obviously the most insecure machine. So you have to connect, or maybe you have a tablet there and you have to connect to your environment. So you can just go to the browser and put your username and password, use a multi-factor authentication to log in, and then from that tablet, from within the browser, you can connect to the virtual machines as well. You don't need to download RDP. Suppose downloading is blocked in certain areas. Maybe you want to connect to the virtual machine to your environment, and RDP is blocked, or you cannot download anything there, or that MSDSC application is blocked, right? From which the remote desktop connection opens. So in that case, you can just go to the browser and you can connect as well. So it's ease of access plus more secure access. That's what Bastion Subnet is all about. Let's try to check it out. What is a Bastion sub and net? The other thing is that I need to put a good read there as well. So I'm just gonna put a URL there as well. So you could have a good read. So Microsoft Azure Bastion. So this concept is with Google Cloud as well as AWS, Amazon Web Services as well, which is the top cloud service provider, Amazon. Then comes Microsoft Azure second, but more jobs in GTA or in Canada are for Microsoft Azure Cloud. It's still second. Okay, so what is Azure Bastion? Azure Bastion is a service you deploy that lets you connect to a virtual machine using your browser and Azure portal or via native SSH or RDP client already installed on your local computer. Okay, so you can still try to connect that, but I'll show you how. It's different. The Azure Bastion service is fully platform managed PaaS service. Platform as a service that you provision inside your virtual network. So you deploy directly inside your virtual network. It provides secure and seamless RDP SSH connectivity to your machines directly from the Azure portal over TLS. So the connectivity, when you open a browser, you're trying to access your virtual machine. The connection is also protected by transport layer security, TLS, or transport layer security, where your data is encrypted. Okay, when you connect via Azure Bastion, your virtual machines don't need a public IP address, agent, or special client software. There you go. So that's another big benefit there. You're not dependent on, oh, is there something installed here on this virtual machine? Oh, RDP protocol is blocked in this virtual machine. How do I connect to my environment now? You need all that. And you don't even need to give public IP to the virtual machines, right? So Bastion provides secure RDP and SSH connectivity to all of the VMs in the virtual network in which it is provisioned. Using Azure Bastion protects your virtual machines from exposing, that's what I was saying, exposing RDP SSH ports to the outside world. Okay, so Azure Portal 443, Internet, Azure Bastion Subnet. So you create a separate subnet there, and then from that you can connect to target VM subnets. So that's a very good read about what is Bastion subnet. And now let's create it. Okay. So let us install it, right? So let's go ahead and now create our Bastion subnet. So how do we do that? We do. Okay. I'm trying not to say Scooby Doo. Anyway, so yeah, that's our previous lab. You know what? It's costing me now. Okay. So, but Bastion host can be created within one VNet. Bastion host is related to a VNet. It can be created inside a VNet. I'm going to go to any one VNet and create a Bastion. You know what? This other VNet has the virtual machine, which is already having just a private IP, right? Just a private IP. So if I go to this VNet 2 and there's a Bastion written here, so it's not configured obviously. So it says create Azure Bastion using defaults, or I want to configure Azure Bastion on my own. So Bastion pricing starts with an hourly base rate. That's where it gets scary. You know what? In George Brown College, I was teaching all these services and Azure services to students, and that was my first time many batches ago that I was going for Bastion host. Hey guys, Bastion host, let's do a lab for that. So everyone did the class of I think 27, 28 students. We all did Bastion host. So after that lab is done, the college is given $100 credit from Azure, Microsoft Azure, just per student $100 credit for the whole year. Right? So Bastion host sucked up the whole credit of many students in 2 weeks. So it's not. It offers a very good services, but it's expensive. Right? So if I click learn more here, uh, and pricing available. Well, yeah, Azure Bastion per hour is 0.256 cents. And Boston Standard 0.390 cents per hour, additional standard instance. Okay, so you want two instances of Boston host then, but yeah, so that's how it is, and you are transferring data, outbound data transfer. Ouch! So that it's going to be more, cents per GB. So that's why it gets expensive. But how the ease of access and more security that for big companies, these expenses are peanuts for big companies because they get more ease of access and security, right? So anyway, let's go to create Azure Bastion using defaults. But there is, if I go to another tab here, another tab, and I go to portal menu, and I go to virtual machines. And if I go inside the virtual machine, VNet2 has private IP, right? So I go there and go to connect. So there also it says Bastion. You want to connect via Bastion or RDP. Till now, we've been connecting RDP. SSH is for Linux machines. We haven't deployed any Linux machine. If you're a Linux guru, you can do that. So Bastion, if I go there, so it also says that, hey, I want to create Azure Bastion using defaults. Okay, so that's the same thing in subnet, in VNet actually, and that's the same thing within a virtual machine that is in fact in that VNet 2, right? So from within the virtual machine, you want to go for it, or from VNet, it's pretty much the same thing. So I'm going to go from within the virtual machine for no particular reason. Okay. So I'll click that. Create Azure Bastion using defaults. Adding subnet, Azure Bastion subnet. So it's creating a subnet with exactly the same name. This name has to be exactly this name, right? To virtual network, a VNet 2. It's also going to come up with the new next available IP range. So remember that the subnet of this um, subnet of this subnet has the range 192.168.0.0. So if you're creating a Bastion subnet within this VNet, so this would be in this diagram, it would be another subnet now. It's creating another subnet now, and it has to give it a range. So it has to give it the next available range, which is 192.168.1.0, right? So it should give that range, or let's see. And this host Bastion host cannot have virtual machines inside. This Bastion subnet is supposed to be used for connectivity. Through this, you can connect to other subnets within the VNet and the virtual machines inside those subnets, right? So the Bastion subnet that is creating now, let's check out that what's going on. Bastion subnet. So the range should be 192.168.1.0/24. But let's see. But you cannot create VMs inside, and cannot create VMs inside, as well as um yeah. So uh, we can has a public IP as a public IP and um and access from browser. So ease of access as well as all right. Okay. So this these are some of the points. Let's go back. Okay, so creating a new Bastion VNet 2. Bastion pricing starts with an hourly base. Yeah, we're gonna delete it before the hour maybe. Okay, so while this is creating, I'm gonna go to the other tab to check if another subnet was created in the VNet. So I'm just gonna go there in the VNet and go to the subnets area instead. Subnets is this, right? Yes, there is another subnet called Azure Bastion subnet. Second thing is, yes, it gave the range 192.168.1.0 next possible range and /26. So a bit lesser number of clients. So in this subnet /24, 250 client machines can come. Here's 57 client machines. So it has given a smaller network, which is okay, which is good. First thing, it's the IPs that are available there. Normally, we don't use it for any of the client machines deployment, right? Okay, so now is it created or not? I'm going to go to the next tab and check it out if some kind of creating a new. Oh yeah, one more thing. It takes forever to create. Yeah, I remember in the class as well as the other batches. So this dude takes a lot of time to create. So, as a Bastion service enables you to securely and seamlessly RDP NSS. So when it is created, obviously, then I can show you how easy it is to connect through the Bastion subnet. So, like when you go to the portal here, and this is the portal, obviously, and it just says that put the username password here for the virtual machine, and from here, within that console, you put a username password and you connect to the virtual machine from within the browser itself instead of downloading the RDP or just checking the public IP and then opening the client here, remote desktop client, right? MSTSC that I did before. So instead of that, it just username password just comes right here. So you type the username password here and then you connect directly from within the browser to the virtual machine. So that becomes so cool whenever it gets created. So now while it gets created, we should. No, there's no other choice but to wait. But we can talk about. Okay, we can talk about something else while this is getting created, and hopefully you don't get confused. That we were talking about something else, and then this Boston. So I forgot everything about Boston. I hope that doesn't happen. Okay, so that's browser thing. Good read I shared. So there's also express route that we wanted to talk about. And while we keep an eye on this new Bastion VNet 2 is getting, so yeah, oh, there you go, created, and there's a username password. So that icon here shows us that created a new Bastion. successfully subnet, saving subnet, so everything there. Now you can see here username, authentication type, and the password. So please enter username password to your virtual machine to connect using Bastion. So this is how Bastion looks like. Uh, like uh, um, you can just go to the virtual machines. The virtual machine is in supposed to be this virtual machine is supposed to be in the VNet. Um, hey, this virtual machine is supposed to be in the other VNet where I did not create the Bastion. So why is it showing the Bastion there? Um, Maybe, well, peering connection should not just install the Bastion on that. So yeah, first of all, how to connect? It's that easy. You go to the virtual machine. Suppose you click overview. Okay, this is a virtual machine. And then you go to connect and then you choose Bastion. So you just need to put the username here, your first name, or my first name, admin, and then what's the authentication here? Password from Azure keyboard? Nope, that's the password I put there. Yeah, I didn't save anything in the keyboard. M small abc, capital ABC, shift 123, dot shift 123, right? Yeah, that's password and connect. So there you go. Pop-up blocker is preventing new window from opening. Okay. Hey, Mr. Pop-up blocker. Um, okay. Pop-up blocker here. Interesting. Um, Interesting. Hey, it used to just pop up here, right? Oh, the options? Options. Options. What's option? Oh, options. Options. Oh, that's just it just gave a pop-up window. Okay, Waleed says it just gave a pop-up window. Um, Seriously, man. Oh, okay. Hey, that's a good one. Oh, there it is. Ah, this seriously. In Chrome, it appears here. I mean, Fox on Fire. Okay, okay. Firefox. So open pop-up windows, allow. Right. Open pop-up windows, allow. The rest is allowed. Okay. Open one blocked pop-up window. It's just allow. I say that, and now window pops up. There's another tab here, connected to Bastion host, and it's trying to connect. It's connecting. There you go. Woohoo. So one other tab within the browser opens, and that's your virtual machine that you're connecting. I didn't have to download RDP, or I didn't have to do this MSTSC and press enter and open in my laptop. This is in my laptop, right? So, open in my laptop this connection. I don't have to do that now. This is my laptop, right? So I just go to the browser and go into the portal and just simply click Bastion, and from within the browser, username password I put there. And this virtual machine has no public IP. It only has a private IP. Right? And I'm still able to connect without VPN and without express route, right? So that's the third thing that you can connect. This is the third way that you can connect to to private IP based virtual machine through Bastion subnet. The thing, right? So Bastion subnet gets created, and after that, this is so cool service. That's why it's a bit more expensive. It's very excellent service, and then your mobility is so smooth and good, and you can just wherever you are, whichever device you're connecting from. If you feel that that device is a bit more secure, you just use the browser, open the browser, and within the browser, you connect to the virtual machine. You don't have to download anything, no RDP, no nothing, right? Okay, so that is that's it. That's Bastion. Right? But it creates a full subnet. Second thing, it is going to be uh, one bastion per VNet, and that's it. So bastion subnet. Now it's not complicated stuff. That's what I was saying. But the thing is that it's very, very uh, it's more secure and easier to access. Eh, All right, that is Bastion Host. And guys, I need to really delete everything because that's gonna start charging me. But the thing is that the labs are done, so good. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start doing the resource group deletion while we prepare for the next lab. Next lab. Okay, so this is the resource group that I was attaching everything to. So I'm just going to go inside the resource group. I'm going to delete the whole thing, the peering connection, as well as um, the this Bastion lab, which was done within one of the labs, right? So I'll go here. There's so much to it. It's a full planet of, so much services and so much scenarios can be put there. But once we understand the main concept behind services, that what this service does, how does it work, then you can come up with so many scenarios. Now, my suggestion would be that you should create like 5 subnets or 6 subnets there, and then create a private IP based virtual machine on all 5 subnets, and the 6th subnet should be that from there you try to connect to all the virtual machines in other subnets. And also you can create a Bastion host there as well. So while this is deleting, let's start with our, um, that's it, with our point to side VPN. So point to side VPN is um kind of point to side. Seriously. Okay. Azure VPN, or I can go for much longer lab, but it's gonna. We can either do the on-premises thing that create from there and then create here as well, or configure Azure VPN gateway. Uh, where is this Azure? I'm just looking at the other slide. Other page, other screen, and the point to site lab is a pretty straightforward lab. Although it's I've configured it for my office as well. There in my office, I configured excuse me, that as well. I'll just take out the screenshots of that on my left side so I could start the lab. Okay, so while this is deleting, I'm going to go to the others. Yeah, it says deleted. The machines are deleted, right? But you understand, you get the point. Okay, Microsoft Azure point to site VPN. Okay, what is this? Why do we use it? This point to site. Now, VPN, virtual private network, right? There are so many VPN providing services there, like NordVPN and others. So what is point to site? A point to site VPN gateway connection lets you create a secure connection to your virtual network from an individual client computer. A P2S or point to site connection is established by starting it from the client computer. This solution is useful for telecommuters who want to connect to Azure VNets from a remote location. From your home, you want to connect to the virtual network, such as from home or a conference. P2S VPN is also a useful solution to use instead of S2S VPN S2S. S2S is site-to-site VPN. So two sites are connected to each other, and then there is point to site that one machine is connecting to the site. SS VPN when you have only a few clients that need to connect to a VNet. So the thing is, with the point to site, we're using OpenVPN protocol. Point to site VPN can use one of the following protocols. Either you can use OpenVPN protocol. So basically, what you're doing is that you are connecting from home. So suppose this is your home, um, right? So connecting from home or office. Obviously, in today's net setup, it's home, actually home office, and from there you're launching a connection to a VNet. So why should VNet let you in? I mean, how does the VNet authenticate you? What are the protocols of connectivity authentication that the VNet will make you go through in order to let you into this company's critical environment, right? So you use a VPN client to connect. That's one thing. Second thing, you have to create here actually a subnet. You have to configure a subnet that has virtual network gateway VNG configured inside. A subnet that has subnet that has a VNG, which is virtual network gateway configured inside. And within the virtual network gateway, you can configure VPN gateway. And once you configure the VPN gateway, so the client, um, so Imran Alam says in the WebEx chat, DHCP for client VPN. So yes, within the VPN gateway, you can configure the DHCP as well. So that's also called VPN DHCP. Either you configure that VPN DHCP, or you can just use the DHCP of the that is provided by the subnet itself. So there are two choices there, but we're going to be actually giving an IP range for our own DHCP in our inside the VPN. So VPN also has a DHCP. What happens is that when the client connects, so first the connection protocols, connectivity protocols, that which secure protocol are you connecting from, that is exchanged. Then there is authentication performed, and then once everything is good, then an IP is provided from the VPN to this machine as well. So this machine, if it is successfully connected to the VPN, Azure VPN, so it will have two IPs. One IP is the local public IP, local IP that is the DSL IP of this this person, and the second IP will be provided from the VPN as well to this machine. So once you are successfully connected to the VPN, and if you go ipconfig /all, so you will see actually two IP addresses assigned to you. One IP will be coming from VPN DHCP. If that IP is given to you, then only you can browse this network and go to other subnets and other machines if you're allowed to go to the subnet. So the thing is that this is all here available. You have to configure it within the VPN gateway. So that is one thing. If I go back here, what protocol does P2S use? OpenVPN protocol and SSL TLS based VPN protocol are TLS VPN. TLS is transport layer security. So it encrypts data in transit. In transit means that data which is moving over the network is encrypted. So moving data. So that a TLS VPN solution can penetrate firewalls, since most firewalls open TCP ports. So you don't have to open another port in the firewall if you're using TLS protocol. It's well known to the firewall administrators and security teams. So it uses 443, and 443 is always open in firewalls. So outbound, which TLS uses, OpenVPN can be used to connect from Android, iOS. So you can connect from with OpenVPN from even those iOS and Android devices, Windows, Linux, Mac devices. So that's why this is so popular. So I had configured that in my company for connectivity. Many people who go outside of the country, they need to also um, connect and to Microsoft 365 services. Microsoft also says that if you're outside of your country, it doesn't really matter. Wherever from planet Earth you're connecting, it's kind of secure if you have MFA. With the SaaS services I'm talking about, software as a service, right? Like Microsoft 365 for online services, like Exchange Online, Outlook Online. But when it comes to this IaaS environment, infrastructure as a service environment where you are handling virtual machines, you need to connect only through, it's better to connect only through this VPN. Right? So in your companies, if people are connecting to your Azure environment, handling virtual machines or the IaaS environment, which where we are, then you should create a VPN gateway and let them all connect through the Azure VPN, be authenticated properly, and to create a secure tunnel over the internet to connect to the rest of the services. Then PTS also uses PTS. P2S also uses Secure Socket Tunneling Protocol or SSTP, a proprietary TLS-based or Transport Layer Security-based VPN protocol. TLS VPN solution can penetrate firewalls since most firewalls, it's pretty much the same thing. SSTP is only supported on Windows devices. Okay, so that's the difference between above and below. OpenVPN can be used on pretty much all the other devices. SSTP is Microsoft proprietary. Uh, is it proprietary? I guess maybe. So SSTP is only supported on Windows devices. Azure supports all versions of Windows that have SSTP and support TLS 1.2, which is Windows 8.1 and later. So you must have latest Windows there, right? ONK. Then there is IKEV 2 VPN, a standards-based IPsec VPN solution. IKEV 2 VPN can be used to connect from Mac devices. So it's which device are you connecting from? So obviously the winner is OpenVPN, but you can use others as well. How are P2S VPN clients authenticated? So before Azure accepts P2S VPN connection, user has to be authenticated first. There are two mechanisms for that. Authenticate using native Azure certificate authentication. So you have to download a Azure certificate, which has your domain name, which has encrypted information about your Azure tenant, or you can just get authenticated from Active Directory. If your username is created inside Azure Active Directory, username password, then it's going to just ask Azure Active Directory, hey, Azure Active Directory, is this our guy who is connecting from outside to our Azure environment? And then Azure Active Directory can confirm, yes, this username password we have, let him in. So Azure AD authentication allows users to connect to Azure using their Azure Active Directory credentials. Azure AD authentication is only supported for OpenVPN protocol and also required. So another thing about that is if you're not using the security certificate, no, what is a security certificate? If I just go here, this site here, right? And connection information, connection secure, and go for Microsoft Corporation, more information maybe. So yeah, so it does shows view certificate. So this is the security certificate we got from is Microsoft Corporation, but Microsoft is not a DA, right? So does not provide certificate, not a certificate provider, right? So certificate authority, no basic constraints. This is a security certificate that tells you that which company the certificate was bought from. If it's not some other company, and we know that Microsoft is not a CA or certificate authority itself, so it could be a self-signed certificate or created by Microsoft only, which is kind of not very reliable. Yeah, it doesn't say which certificate company, which are the professional ones. Microsoft Azure TLS issuing CA. Oh, so CA is certificate authority. So maybe Microsoft has started doing that. Or it's just a self-signed certificate, which is not that reliable in companies or in production market. Anyway, it was given by Microsoft itself. If I just go back here, it says that if you are not using security certificate, if you're not downloading that, then you need to use Azure VPN client. You have to download this client, particular client, and then it will, through this client, it will check inside your Azure Active Directory, where there's thousands of username passwords are stored there. So it will check there. So the client has to be Azure VPN if you want authentication to be done with Azure Active I and Directory. Okay, so that's how it says it's gonna be done. So this is, so for protocol we're gonna be using. I hope I start soon. For protocol we're gonna be using OpenVPN protocol, and we can connect from any device, but we are going to use authentication method Azure Active Directory. For this, we need to have specific Azure VPN client as well. So it's not built in Windows client, because there is also a built-in Windows client that you can create, but you have to download specifically this one for the authentication from Azure Active Directory to happen. Okay, so the supported client operating systems are Windows 10 or later. With native Azure AD authentication, you can leverage Azure AD's conditional access. Yeah, you can just have more. Azure Active Directory offers a long list of security-related policies or access-related policies, so you can then use those. At high level, you need to perform the following steps to configure Azure AD authentication. To configure an Azure AD tenant, we already have Azure AD tenant. Enable Azure AD authentication on the gateway. Download the latest version of VPN. So these are the major steps that we need to do. But let's start the lab authenticate using Active Directory domain server. We're not going to use on-premises Azure Active Directory for that. What are the client configuration requirements? Okay, there are these as well. Which gateways queues support P2S VPN? In our company, we went for this one. Um, so VPN gateway. It says that what kind of VPN uh, connection services you want. Do you have, uh, site to site? Are you going to create site to site VPN and VNet to VNet you're going to connect, or you're going to connect P2S as well, SSTP protocol you're going to use, or you're going to use OpenVPN or ICAV2. So if you go for basic VPN connectivity, it does not support OpenVPN. So you can't connect from lots of devices, variety of devices and vendors to Azure. For that, you need to then go for generation 1 VPN gateway 1. Maximum 30 site-to-site connections it can support. Maximum 128 virtual machines or users it can connect with SSTP protocol, and 250 connections. 250 users can connect with ICAV and OpenVPN protocol, and aggregate through benchmark. So it's just the download that it's gonna give you, and border gateway protocol that discovers other routing connections and a lot of other services. Is there redundancy? Zone redundancy is no. So this means that um, the zone, if you are connected to one, there are three availability zones normally, right, in a region. So your connection information will not be copied to another zone. Suppose there's a zone that you're connecting from goes down, there's an outage. So your connection information will not be there. Or this, sorry, it's not the connection information, it's the gateway. So VPN gateway, do you want a copy of that in another availability zone, which is like few hundred miles away from your availability zone? If you want a copy of that, then you can go for zone and zone dependency supported from generation 2 VPN gateway 2 AC. It starts from there, right? Anyway, the thing is that you have to check. In my company, we have just connected from here, right? Connected this one. We need the redundancy, or we kind of don't want to go much higher, and we have very few people who are connecting from this, but we're using OpenVPN. Okay. And then it goes down to what you can support, pricing as well, VPN gateways, so packets per second per tunnel observed. So there are two tunnels that you can create as well. From one tunnel you can connect, and if there's too much traffic, then you can use the other tunnel as well. So it goes down, and then policies, what kind of policies it can contain, what kind of security, SAW 384, and what kind of gap security that it can cover, so that it shows here TLS policy. So it goes down with lots of details here. Um, so there is that configure a P2S connection, Azure native certificate authentication. So now how to configure it? I think we will be able to do that hopefully. For here Microsoft has given a lab, right? And I was looking for my own lab that I've created. So, but when we change computers, so that really screws up everything, and then all articles are gone. So I'm also going to be dependent on. This is the PowerShell way of doing things: declare variables, create a VNet. So we're going to be doing this, create a VNet, but we're going to do the usual way of Azure PowerShell, Azure Portal. There you go. So Azure Portal, and what we're going to do is prerequisites: verify that you have an Azure subscription. Yes, we do. We have a subscription. You don't already have blah blah blah. Okay, come on. Examples, values. You can use the following values to create a test environment. So we're gonna create one VNet. Inside the VNet, we're gonna create one virtual network gateway. Um, and then we're going to, so it's giving you exactly step by step what to do. So we're going to be a bit different from what it is doing, a little different, but pretty much these are the major steps that we're going to go for. We're going to create a virtual network gateway, and then it has a lot of settings. We're not generating certificates, so we're going to skip this. And once virtual network gateway is configured, VNG, then we're going to go for pointer site configurations. So it seems a bit complicated, but it's not that once you've gone through that. And then you go for, authentication type as Azure Active Directory. It's still insisting that if you want to go for certificate download, then this is the way. But we're going to go for, instead of Azure certificate, we're going to go for Azure Active Directory. And configure settings for VPN clients, connect to Azure. That's it. Um, so it shows here it's not that simple as well. There could be mistakes done if we miss any one small step. I'm just going to follow this lab, but ours will be a bit different. So install a client. It's still showing you the client certificate side, but not the Azure authentication way of doing things. Wait, Azure notification is here. Oh, there you go. So configure a P2S VPN and 10 VPN and tenant. This is okay. I'll just put that. Otherwise, I have created my own lab. I've done that, and I could just go for my previous video and just follow that as well. But it's always helpful to go for my own. Oh yeah. So these two pages will help. Okay, let's start. Now, what we need to do is model. Okay, we're gonna create a VNet. So we're gonna create. The good thing about YouTube is that I uploaded that. So wherever, if there is any one step is uh, lost, so I have my own previous videos as well. Ha ha ha. And from there I can grab just to check that hey I'm doing fine or not. And otherwise I will have to log into my office documentation where I have saved it all as well. So on the other screen right now I am just connecting to my uh, channel, and then I'm going to search for my okay, this is the channel, and handle is at Engineers Academy. So there I'm uploading these same courses in Urdu as well, just for the Urdu speaking community. Okay. Anyway, so I'll just put that here and put Azure VPN. Day 16, Cloud 4-in-1 course, how to configure site to site, how to configure point to site. There you go. That's what I configured. Seriously, 2 years ago. Where's my latest video? Okay. Really? Okay. So the steps are pretty much the same. But I recently configured it for my office again. I had to do that, so that's why. Um, oops. Okay. Okay, wrong ad. I'll just move it away from my screen here and let's get started. I should start fast because it's otherwise we will run out of time. So, okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is create a VNet. So let's create a VNet. So I'm just going to go ahead and create a VNet. I don't need the certificate thing. Second thing is are my resource groups done? Yeah, my main resource group is deleted, so all these resources are gone now, which I created since the morning, which is good. Network Watcher RG is always a monitoring tool for networking, monitoring resource group that gets created. So I'll just get rid of it as well and quickly create the next tab. Then next week we're gonna do the on-premises replica and failover the cloud, right? So that would be also very, very interesting. Interesting. Trying to speak some French. Okay. So accent only. Create. So we're gonna go for another resource group today, and oh, I'm creating a resource group. So let's create a VNet first. So I'm just gonna go ahead and start creating that diagram. So let's create a VNet, and then go for automatically. It's gonna create a subnet, and then we're gonna go for the virtual network gateway as well. So VNet and 000/16 and the subnet that we are creating. Subnet, we know the drill here, and the 000/24. And yeah, in the end, we're gonna be creating a virtual machine because we need to log in from something inside our uh, subnet. So we're gonna ultimately create a virtual machine with a private IP. VM with a private IP because that's the purpose of VPN. Uh, that you should be able to connect to a virtual machine that has a private IP. And we're not configuring Bastion whole subnet this time. We're gonna try to connect from VP and N. All right. So let us go ahead. Um, so I'm going to go ahead and go to portal menu here, go to virtual networks and create a virtual network, create a resource group with that RG-31st DAC 2022 dash. Okay, this time I'm going to make it a different one, biryani. Okay, I'll make this name that. And then it's VNet1. Okay, you can just name it anything else as well. Canada East, no. Canada Central, we are in Canada Central. And then IP addresses, so yes, the range is okay here. And default is okay here. We don't need to change the name of the subnet as well. Security, when I go to security, I'm not enabling Bastion host now. And distributed denial of service, DDoS, and firewall, we're going to leave it as is. Tags, nothing in the tags, how to create it, and review plus create. And validation passed, create. Now we know how to do this, so it's no big deal. Okay, so deployment succeeded, and go to resource. Yep. I'm going to go to. We could have just clicked that as well, and here virtual networks. So that's the first thing that we're doing. If I go back to the articles here, oh man, it's built this. Okay. Configure point to site connection. Yep, create a VNet, did that. So virtual network created, East US, we didn't do that. It's okay, it doesn't matter. Channels disabled, yeah, everything disabled. We did that just now. Create the VPN gateway. In this step, you create the virtual network gateway. So it says VPN while this is VNG. So first we create a virtual network gateway for your VNet, which is created in a separate subnet. Creating a gateway can often take 45 minutes or more depending on the selected gateway's queue. You kidding me? Okay. Basic gateway's queue does not support, we're not going for basic anyway. The virtual network gateway uses specific subnet called the gateway subnet. Gateway subnet is part of the virtual network IP address range that you specify. So that's where we're going to give the DHCP. And it contains IP address. When you create the gateway subnet, you specify the number of IP address. Yeah. So we're going to do that. Virtual network gateway. Let's just agree and add that. So it says that you can just search it from here, virtual network gateway. But let me show you one more thing. So if I go back here, is the virtual network gateway already available here in the subnet? So VNG or a virtual network gateway is excuse me, is this already available in the subnet that we created? So if I go back to the Fox on Fire, okay, so this I should remove. Boston, we're not creating that. Now we're on that tab. Okay, so virtual networks, we have just created a virtual network VNet1, and we're gonna go inside. We're going to the subnet, and oh, there's a gateway subnet here. So yes, we can create a gateway subnet inside the VNet. So I'm just gonna go for gateway subnet here, and so it says that okay, the first subnet is this IP, the second subnet will be this IP, and Service endpoints, no services, subnet delegation, network policy for private endpoints. So anything else I'm not creating right now. I'm gonna click save here. So it's just another subnet that we're creating, and that subnet is going to have the virtual gateway, the network gateway, sorry. So yeah, virtual network gateway is there, basics, project details, instance details, the basics tab. Okay, in search resources, yeah. So we have to configure the VNG once it is created, and VNG has a lot of configurations, and within the VNG, which is virtual network gateway, is the VPN gateway and VPN related questions are going to be asked there. So that VNG has to be configured. So for that, I'm waiting for this. Okay, it's done actually. So gateway subnet here, it's created now. Once the gateway subnet is created, I'm going to search. I'm going to search for the VNG. So you can see that gateway subnet is there, but does not really offers or says where's the VNG is. So I'm just going to go for search of VNG. In fact, I'm just going to keep this environment live here so I could show you that how to connect to the VNG. So I'm just going to create another duplicate tab here. Duplicate tab. And ask who are you? I'm saying this. And then go to search and then type VNG, right? Virtual network gateways. Network gateways. Now that's where Azure VPN Gateway connects your on-premises networks to Azure through site-to-site VPNs in a similar way that you set up and connect to a remote branch office. The connectivity is secure and uses the industry standard protocols, Internet Protocol security. So Virtual Network Gateway does help with B2S as well, but it also says site-to-site VPN. I'm creating a virtual network gateway. So it says that, okay, so what are you going to be doing here? Are you creating a very expensive express route, or are you creating a VPN here? Right? So there's that resource group. Yep, it's going to be creating. So I'm just going to call it VNG-Armor. And then Canada Central, because my other resource is in Canada Central. Gateway type is VPN, yes, and VPN type is route based. So we're going to have a route enabled from our gateway to our virtual machine. So from here, we'll accept the route, or wherever the VPN clients are connecting from, it's going to accept that. So other thing is policy based we cannot go for now, because then we have to create certain policies that is used for much bigger environments with more stricter rules. Route based, you can just it's just where the client is connecting from. You can just select that. Okay, then there's a basic. We don't want that. We will go for VPN gateway and generation 1. Yeah, that's Gen 1. That's the only one available. Virtual network. It says where is the virtual network to which you want to connect this virtual network gateway. VNet 1. And it detects the gateways, and only virtual networks in the currently selected subscription and region are listed. And it automatically detects that gateway subnet that I created before, right? So it will only connect, virtual network gateway will only connect to gateway subnet if it's there. Otherwise, you go back and create one. But I created that already, so it's okay. Public IP address type, standard, only virtual networks. Okay, yeah, standard is okay. Public IP address, create new, you want to give a public IP address. Obviously, I want to give virtual network gateway public IP address. So our client from here can make a, so the client has to find the virtual network gateway where it is. So if it doesn't have a public IP, obviously, how can it even find it? So just like the Bastion had a public IP, you had to connect to something that is public, right? In order to connect to all the private resources later. So that's the same thing here. All right. Then there is um, we need to give the name, public IP address name. So public dash IP dash your first name. So once we give that, then we go ahead. So enable active mode. So now this is active mode is the gateway skew must be like if you have two tunnels connecting from the gateway to the client and client to the gateway, then both will be active in that case. If one through one tunnel you are unable to connect, then you can connect to the other tunnel. Also, it could be overwhelming traffic could be redirected to the other tunnel as well. If there's too much traffic, too much data being transferred over the VPN, and then the BGP is if you want to enable that. Border Gateway Protocol. It's for bigger environment. Yes, you can do that, but otherwise you don't have to do this. Okay, so that whole thing configured. Yes, yes, yes. Generation one. So it's once that all is configured, then we go ahead and click tags. Tags, nothing here. Review plus create. Mission passed, and it is getting re-entered. So right now it is getting created. Oh man, 124. I hope we are able to finish it in time. Okay. Oh, that also takes time, man. Hmm. So um, once virtual network gateway is configured, then we need to do the next configurations. We need to create a virtual machine as well with a private IP. Wow, that's gonna take time, man. Okay. Okay. Oh man, I was thinking, yeah, should I start or not? Right. So, um, it's Azure, and then oh man. Sit back, enjoy the show. It did say it takes 45 minutes, I think. We got 30 minutes. So once the key and virtual network gateway is configured, then the point to start configuration within that can be configured. So yeah, we are totally dependent on and it is configured. Point to site has to be configured. So we have to also um, download the VPN client if it downloads today. Um, okay, so yeah, we went through all this. We don't need to generate certificates. Uh, we need to actually configure the point to site. Yeah, this is the one. We need to configure this. Add the VPN client address pool. The client address pool is a range of private IP addresses. So here we're gonna create an address pool that will be from that address pool. One IP will be assigned to one client, second IP to the second one who is connecting from home. Um, this is the configuration in the virtual network gateway. Once it is created, we go down to point to site configuration. We click figure now, and then we start putting information, and that's it. So we're not going for root certificate. We're going for Azure Active Directory based. So that's how it looks like. Point to site VPN. Uh, Given address pool, it could be a totally different IP range. Tunnel type, we can go for OpenVPN. Here, instead of Azure certificate, we're going to select Azure Active Directory. Then we don't have to provide the root certificate, but we have to get consent from Azure Active Directory. Hey, Azure Active Directory, can VPN gateway receive connections? And hey, Azure Active Directory, will you be able to help us authenticate the users? That is it our user or not? So that we have to configure here. It's not showing that exact screen, but this is what we will be Faye and Sing. Configure point to site, VPN client, certificate authentication, install client certificate. So that's not fair what they did, Microsoft guys. They should clearly show the Azure Active Directory one as well. Configure Azure AD tenant P2S conversion for VPN gateway P2S connections. Azure AD tenant, create Azure AD tenant, done. So yeah, we will have to go to enterprise applications inside Azure Active Directory and get consent yes for this client. Oh, there you go. So that's what we're going to see. Once the VNG is connected, point to site, we'll give our range. We'll select OpenVPN SSL. Then we're going to go for authentication type Azure Active Directory. Then you have to give certain specific information to the VNG, Virtual Network Gateway, about your Azure Active Directory. You have to grab this information from there. So this is the other part. And yeah, so they do tell us that where to get that information. Once that is done, then you're ready to download the Azure VPN client and connect. So it's just, we can't afford to miss any step here. That's the main thing. And so I'm just gonna go back and check it out. What are you kidding me? What are you doing? Or just trying to download. What are you doing? Deployment. Oh man, seriously. Uh, okay. Wow, an hour left, but yeah, we're gonna finish the lab regardless. I have to, guard the whole thing. So also, I was thinking whether to launch the two-in-one AWS Solutions Architect Associate and AWS Security course, or AWS Solutions Architect Associate and Azure Administration, which is this one. So it depends on how many students are interested for which one. But this will be launched in maybe next weeks. Uh, so AWS Solutions Architect Associate labs are also long and tough. But once you have proper understanding of AWS services as well, how it compares with Azure, then it becomes a good combination on your resume. Okay. Now, it's gonna really okay, well, it's taking. Okay, I'm gonna click that. I'm in progress. So it's showing the deployment. Okay, so VNG created. Okay, deployment is still in progress in the background. Operation details, if I go there, so it is still creating, like it's just information, it's not showing any progress related stuff. Ah, okay, so Monday or Sunday. So Nick says in the chat, how difficult would it be to migrate VMware VM to Azure? Ooh, man, VMware VM. Uh, VMware VM has to be converted to Azure. There's a converter that you can find. So suppose, guys, this is not exactly related, but it's a very crucial question that how do you migrate? Um, so let me just create a diagram for that. So you have there, like, unable to decide. So you have here Azure and Azure environment, and that is Azure IaaS, Infrastructure as a Service, which means it's a full data center. And then there is your branch, and you have, suppose this is Toronto branch. So what I was planning to do was to deploy a Windows server and install Hyper-V inside, then create a virtual machine inside, uh, and then make a replica of this machine in Azure Cloud, and then fail over to the cloud version. So that was the whole exercise. But this is a virtual machine, a Hyper-V virtual machine. The only thing to make sure here is that the VM's uh, virtual disk needs to be um, converted from .vhdx uh, virtual disk extension, which is a newer one, um, to .vhd were virtual disk extension to .vhd, right? So once the virtual machine's extension is .vhd, then we can upload that virtual disk and attach to Azure VM. Now, this is not virtual machine migration I'm talking about. This is virtual disk of a local virtual machine, on-premise virtual machine being uploaded and attached to a Azure VM. But the thing is, so these are actually two different ones, different labs. This is one way Microsoft says this is also for migration, that your local machine has a replica in the cloud, and then you fail over and make the replica as an active machine, and it's actually in the cloud now. The other one is this one is how to move a virtual disk of Hyper-V VM2 um, to Azure Cloud VM. So that was actually the step for this lab. But then your question is about VMware virtual machine migration. Now there's a big setup as well for VMware virtual machine migrations. Like there's a discovery. So Azure does a discovery of VMware environment. Um, Azure needs to then migrate, select and migrate VMs via a gateway. You have to put a lot of infrastructure. You have to install a lot of infrastructure there. But when you go down to one virtual machine, one virtual machine's virtual disk could be moved as well. That virtual machine. So VMware VM can be converted to a Hyper-V VM and then uh, failed over to Azure. That's for one or two virtual machines you have. You want to do that. But if you have a big environment, a VMware huge environment, and then you want to move the machines, then um, the operations are big. You have to have that VMware environment first there. If you have done VMware, obviously, so the vCenter is the main application in VMware. So if you have vCenter and hypervisors with VMs hosted on top, then Azure connects, Azure deploys its VM inside this environment, and then environment, and then does discovery, identification, um, and migration. So for large environment, As to discover that for one or two machines, you can convert them to Hyper-V machines, VMs, and then fail over. As well as I need to just check one more way that can we migrate, with the above way, yes, we can migrate a purely virtual machine, VMware virtual machine there, but can we migrate one virtual machine, VMware virtual machine and VMware? I'll check that out. If I can create a lab for that, can we migrate one VMware VM from on to cloud? So there are bigger ways as well. There are converter ways. You can convert a VMware to Microsoft virtual machine and then make a replica of that, or can we migrate one virtual machine? This would be not that easy. This last one, it would, you have to connect to the VMware environment full and then migrate the virtual machines, VMware virtual machines. This is, I also teach VMware and then I teach Azure, but I haven't actually gone to this experiment. Hopefully, I can create that big lab. Because then we need to install vCenter. This is a big application that takes like 45 minutes just to install. And then VMware virtual machine, and then try to do the whole discovery. So Nick says in the chat, I would think companies have their own ESX on-prem and has a backup would move into Azure. Yeah, like obviously you have to have all the backups there and then you try to move. There's another third party application that does that, and so Veeam application. So this also does the migration. Third party app that helps migrate, and it's obviously they make it more easier than the manual steps that we have to take from purely Microsoft version documentation. Yeah, it's a very, very excellent skill to have that you can migrate um, the environment. In fact, nowadays, this is really, really hot. Many of the environments, many of the new job announcements are asking for this. So this is really important. And let me check if I can come up with a lab for that and what kind of resources are how long does it take, and if there are any errors, then I have to first do it myself. So I'll try to introduce that, but no promises, but I'll try to come up with that lab. Oh man, seriously, it's still deploying. Uh, yeah, Nick says maybe another course on that. Yes, migration course would be very, very interesting course for many, whoever has ever done Azure and AWS. Migration course would be very important next milestone. Well, depends on how many students are there. I'll launch that. But yeah, it's just that I have to work really hard. But after that, definitely it's a very critical skill. It's not that big deal because I've done portions of that already. It's just to combine it in a home lab is a thing. Yeah, if there are a lot of students, or I can try to go for a specific VMware to Azure migration course. It specifically goes for then like once you learn migration from VMware to Azure, then it's easier to go VMware to AWS as well. Okay, I'll try to forcefully put a lab here for at least one VMware machine to be migrated. But there are so many articles on how to do it and videos as well. People have they put the videos of perfect environments. We have to do from scratch everything. Oh man, that's taking like the whole time. Not good. Maybe what we can do is we can also. Oh, there you go. It's done. Okay. I was gonna say let's do it next week. So VNG, we're kind of there. So I'm going to select VNG, and this is a virtual network gateways. I want to go inside the console of that. So there's that VNG virtual network gateway that we have created. If I click that, and then there's a pointer site configuration, right? And then we need to configure now. So again, the objective, we don't need to forget that the objective is to connect from our home machine, so home office. We need to connect to home office. We need to connect through Azure VPN, right? Azure VPN client strictly. That's the objective. VON, V and B and N, Azure VPN client. All right. So now I'm going to go for this address pool. First of all, we can just give any address pool. Remember that the IP range is 10.0.0.0 for within the VNet and subnet that is connected to this virtual network gateway. The IP range there is 10, but I can give for VPN clients 172.16. This is another private IP, right? .0.0/24. /24. So what I'm essentially doing here is this is a subnet with a virtual machine, right? Now we have created another subnet here, and that is a gateway subnet, right? Remember that we created a gateway subnet here. I showed you as well. Gateway subnet. And that gateway subnet is connected to another service within Azure. So it's Azure service ENG, right? Virtual network gateway. So virtual network gateway that we created, virtual network gateway, we just separately configured it, right? Searching it. So once we created it, we connected this to this dude here. Okay. So we connected it with the gateway subnet, virtual network gateway. We connected it to the gateway subnet. And then what we're expecting is that when the Azure VPN client is connected, so all the authentication is done, blah, blah, blah. So connection, what authentication, and once it is done, then it goes to the other subnet and simply connect to the virtual machine. That's what it's supposed to go for. So the thing is, virtual network gateway that is connected, that needs to be configured now. If I go back here, there's OpenSSL, OpenVPN SSL, SSTP, ICAP. We talked about all this before as well. So we can select that. And authentication type. So there is certificate, there's radius. Authentication, that's for really large ISPs with thousands and thousands of users connecting there. So radius server is deployed then. But we're going for few people connecting. So it's Azure Active Directory. Once you go for Azure Active Directory, you need to tell the VNG, Virtual Network Gateway, some specific information about Azure Active Directory. So you need to introduce VNG to Azure Active Directory. We have that is our security guard, right? It has all the username, passwords, and authentication, authorization, permission, everything shown. Okay, so we need to give a certain information here, and there's that learn more about Azure AD authentication. I'm just going to click that. It takes us to exactly that other page that we already had, and then it says that authorize the Azure VPN application. So you're essentially authorizing virtual network gateway and VPN to work. And who's giving the authorization? Azure Active Directory is giving the authorization that you can work from now on. Okay. Oh, sorry. Oh, okay. David says in the chat, I Didn't see that at that time, but it's completed for him. Cool. Okay. So yeah, point to site configuration. First of all, it needs tenant information. So it particularly needs Azure Active Directory related information. I am going to remove this so I can make some place for a third tab. This is VNet. This is VNG configuration. I'm going to make another duplicate tab here. Why? Because I want to go to Azure Active Directory now. So he says, it says, hey, who are you? And then I'm going to go to the Azure Active Directory now. Right? Where is Azure Active Directory? I'm going to go to the portal menu. I'm going to go to the Azure Active Directory. So there it is, Azure Active Directory. And I need some specific information about it. So what is it asking? First it's saying tenant. Please provide a valid tenant. Example, https login.microsoft.com. Guys, till here it's exactly the same information, but after this is the custom tenant ID of your Azure Active Directory. So till here I'm copying here, but after that I need to provide my Azure Active Directory's tenant ID. So yours is different, mine is different. Where is it? Tenant ID. If I go back here to the Azure Active Directory in this tab, there it is, tenant ID. Right? A long one, and there's a copy button here. So I'm just going to copy the tenant ID where we are working, where our Active Directory is, and there you go. So it says all good. Green arrow shows all good. Then it says audience. Oh, what is audience? So there's a URL for that too that it provides. I'm just going to go to the learn more page where it gives more information about this. Government, blah, blah, blah. China, blah, blah, blah. Oh, it was supposed to give the Azure audience information here, which I can get from somewhere else as well as a backup. I, 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 oh, okay. I have opened my office related documentation on my other screen where I configured the whole thing for. Okay, so audience is a specific ID. But they should have put that specific ID in the documentation as well. And there it is. Okay, there you go. Yeah, I should have just gone a bit further down. So this is the audience ID. This is specific to a vendor, to Microsoft. It's pretty much the same. So audience, see it says Azure Public, government, we're not government. Azure Germany, we're not Germany. Azure China, we're not China. Right? So we're this. It's the same for whoever is using Azure Public. So I'm going to go back. I've copied this, copy, and then I'm going back to Azure VNG configuration where it's asking specific information about the vendor. Yes, it is Microsoft. The actual Azure tenant ID that your Azure Active Directory ID it's asking. Now the issuer, who is issuing all this information? So that is also obviously Microsoft is issuing that. So I'm just going to go back to that page which says issuer. Okay. URL of the secure token service include a trailing slash at the end of the issuer value, otherwise the connection may fail. So to put a trailing slash, but it again asks for Azure AD tenant ID, which is the one that we gave just now. So I'm going to copy this whole thing, but obviously we need to fill this up with our Azure tenant ID again, just like the first line. I'm going to go back here and first put the wrong thing here. It's going to give, what is going here? Okay. So instead of this, we're going to take our customized Azure Active Directory tenant ID, copy that, and we need that slash. So then that slash, we're gonna put that as ready. So arrow. So what we did was we told VNG, hey, this is the information about our Azure Directory from which we're going to take authentication for our user. So this is our specific information of Active Directory. So Microsoft Authentication is also saying that, or documentation is saying that uh, we are pretty much uh, Azure Active Directory, we're putting information for that. So it could authorize VNG to work with it. Right? So it's kind of VNG getting introduced to Azure Active Directory. Hey, Azure Active Directory, oh, that's you. Okay, thank you. Nice to meet you. So that once is done, then there's another line here, grant administrator consent for Azure VPN client application. So um, we can save here first and then go ahead, or we can go ahead and then save. So what does it say? Once you finish configure settings, click save. Okay, yep. For documentation, okay. First we save, then we go for grant administrator consent. Now you're authorizing VPN client. Hey, VPN client, yes, you can work with us. We're going to work with you. Don't worry. Administrator is the top account in Azure Active Directory, right? So before that, we save, saving, more saving, some saving. Yes. All right. So it's is saving. Once it is saved, we're kind of there. We just need to do some 2 or 3 more very specific steps, and then it works. We need to download the Azure VPN client. We need to put it's gonna let us download a file. We're gonna download Azure VPN client. Inside that client, we need to put the information that will be downloaded from here, and then that VPN client will connect to our Azure environment. That it saves today. Thursday. I need to record the video, like finish the video. So obviously, I'm stuck here now until it finishes. But yeah, if your curiosity is appreciated, very good. Hmm, seriously? First, VNG took time. No, no, no. This, all right. Um, right, it's done. Whew, God. Okay. So once that is done, uh, okay. So this is supposed to be clickable. It's still not clickable. I'm going to do this grant administrator consent for Azure VPN client. Now it says that, hey, Azure Active Directory, are you allowing Azure VPN to work consent on behalf of your organization? It's asking for organization consent for the Azure VPN to work for your organization. I'm going to click accept and log in again. Okay, it kicked me out. So I'm going to go back to virtual network gateways. That is here where I was before. Actually, it's yeah, it just opened another tab at that time. So okay, so here VNG, we have done the administrator permission as well, but this is not clickable. I'm just going to refresh whole page here. So I'm going to refresh this whole page here, or browser page. Oh, you need to confirm that you want to leave. Information you've entered may not be saved. What? Like, sometimes this warning is kind of useless, but it does waste a lot of time. Is there a refresh on the page level? Okay, I'll go to another one. Oh, yeah, and then come back here. There you go. Okay, now we can just download the client information. This is for the VPN client, Azure VPN client. Right? So that information should download. There you go. It downloaded, right? I'm going to open it in the folder, and I'm going to go inside the folder, peek inside the folder. Yes, it says Azure VPN and generic. If I go to Azure VPN, so that's the XML file that has the information about our tenant. And if you double click that, this is how it looks like. Uh, this is the information that we need to feed into the Azure VPN client, and VPN client will know, oh, this is where I need to connect. Okay, thank you very much. Okay. So I'm going to close that, and now I need a Azure VPN client. So where do I get that? From the internet. Where else? We're going to go for I'm just going to search on the internet for Azure VPN client download. Boom. Here we go. From Microsoft. It has to be from Microsoft, obviously. And okay, that install app. It's Windows apps. This is the Azure VPN client. Get install app free. And it is down and loaded. No, install. Okay, it's downloaded. I'm gonna install it now. Right. Go ahead. Loading and install and link. Okay. Oh, whoa. My internet speed is so good. Hey, what's wrong with Bell? Oh, okay. There you go. Should have said it earlier. Went away. I'm fast. Go, go, go. Move it, move it, move it. Okay, so I'm just gonna click open here. There you go. There's the client. Obviously, it's an empty client right now. And I will right click and pin to taskbar. It's not compulsory, but I'm just going to do that. Second thing is I need to feed it that information that I downloaded from here, right? So I need to add it here. There's a plus sign here, right? Plus sign. I'm going to plus, and as it is import or add, import. To import. Then we downloaded it in a downloads folder or in the documents. Oh, where did I download it? Azure VPN is in downloads. Okay. But I also want to in the zip file, right? I need to unzip it first. Right? Right click, extract all, extract. It's going to extract that as a separate folder. I don't want a zip folder. It's in downloads, it's VNG Armor. Okay. So this is the path. I'm just gonna copy this because I need to tell it to my VPN client here, empty one. That hey, there it is. I think it was add. I was supposed to add or import. Azure VPN. There's the XML file that I need to import. So yep, it was imported. Okay. So once that is done, you can see that this file that I imported gave exactly all the information to the VPN client that where to connect, which protocol to use, even the certificate information, DigiCert, which is a very famous CA or certificate authority. So information, audience information, issuer exactly as I gave there. All information is downloaded here. So I'm going to click save here. Secondary profile selected as none, profile high availability feature disabled. Yeah, I don't need profile high availability, which means that it's just asking that, hey, you want a secondary profile. Now, this is uh, comes down to, hey, you want to connect to the VPN gateway. We need to then see a proof of are we connected to the VPN gateway or not? Because if you come to VMG, so there is an allocated IP address space here, right? It is empty. Once your client successfully connects, it starts showing the IP from which it connected. Right now it's empty, right? I click properties. Oh, I have unsaved. Okay, I'll save here. It says unsaved. Something is unsaved. Maybe the administrator, not administrator, is unsaved. Oh man, seriously, why did it's pretty much the same exact thing again I initiated. Anyway, it's okay, doesn't matter. And then I'm gonna try to connect now. It says, "Who are you?" and it's trying to ask because it needs to authenticate you from its Azure Active Directory. So I'm just gonna go for workforce. The different one. Am I not connected from this one? No. Okay. Different one. Workforce school. Connect. And now it's gonna ask. I hope it gives me the list. Please. Oh, seriously, I need to grab it now. Okay, so the currently logged in user, it needs information of this. So I need to put the whole username to this. So I can grab it from here maybe. Copy. Uh, view count. Ah, man, just go to Azure Active Directory. Seriously. Uh, and you get to that. Right click. Duplicate tab. Why am I going the wrong way? To copy. Okay, I'm going to go to portal menu. I'm going to go down to Active Directory and go to users and go for the locally logged in user, which is admin, currently logged in user, that is admin at CEA. ठीक है. Oh, did I say ठीक है? Okay. So copy that, go back. It's asking, the VPN client is asking because it needs to authenticate with Azure Active Directory. And the password, small abc, capital ABC, 123, I hope that was it. Stay signed in to all your apps. Yeah. Hold on while we register this device with your company and apply policy. This may take a moment. Uno momento. You're all set. Yay, done. But am I connected? It's still saying connecting. It's giving me status log as well. Saving user account. Connected. Woo, green. Woo. Oh, okay. So, several things to check here. First is if I go back here, targeted IP, right? So I go somewhere else and then come back on this page. It is not showing yet allocated IP, but if I refresh the page, maybe. Okay, refresh. Uh, there you go. Allocated IP. Woohoo. Now it's showing that I'm connected. Oh, is this the IP I got? I should confirm for my machine as well. I'm gonna go inside CMD and 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 ipconfig, right? Well, but first I'll go ipconfig. If it doesn't show much, then ipconfig all. So wireless LAN, PPP, Bluetooth. If I go up, um, where's VPN? Where's VPN? Okay, ipconfig, Ethernet, unknown. VMnet. So that is Ethernet, VM network, wireless LAN, PPPP, VNet 1. Yeah, that's it. There you go. 176.02. That's the point-to-point protocol, which is not that secure. We could change that. But thing is that this is the IP showing here, and this is the IP showing here. So this is my laptop showing me the IP that I'm connected to, and this is on the VNG side, virtual network gateway side, that's showing IP, right? So that is, guys, one more thing, and uh, okay, so that Azure's point to side VPN. Okay. So yeah, VPN did connect. Now, so that's it. VPN is connecting. Yay! So if I go back to VNet, so that default gateway subnet is there, and the default subnet is there as well, right? Guys, this is it. Yes. So it's proven that we are connecting to the VPN gateway, and we're good. So Happy New Year. See you next year on Saturday, and we're going to do some other interesting lab, very, very interesting labs. All right, guys. So Happy New Year and thank you and bye bye. And see you next week. Yay. And please do repeat those facts. All right. Happy New Year. Woohoo. Bye bye. I'll stop the video here.